Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And so,
Solar by then, but the solar I'm not really worried about because I've been making a lot of payments on that, and that'll be just about gone. But between the house and the truck, with my, and continue to work,
mhm.
I thought maybe because, what do you figure, 3,200 a month and Social Security.
Yeah,
That's
you're about
what.
$500 or $600,000 behind.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
And so,
gone. But between the house and the truck, with my, and continue to work,
mhm.
I thought maybe because, what do you figure, 3,200 a month and Social Security.
I thought about doing this. I went back and forth on it. I had my doubts, but it. Let's do it. Using the internet without using a VPN is like walking down the street with all of your personal information written right on your shirt. Created a VPN app that secures your rentals by connecting. I'm one of the first China YouTubers. I lived in China for a decade. I learned Chinese. I bought a house. I settled down. I rode for years on a motorcycle with my buddy Serpent ZA across the entire country, exploring and uncovering the China that you don't get to see on China's propaganda. I even made 2 TV shows about it. Well, let's just say things took a dark turn politically, and I fled China with my family and decided to speak out against the Chinese government because of what I had been witnessing. In that time, my audience grew, and so did my sense of justice. I covered the uprising of Hong Kongers against Beijing's takeover of their territory. I was one of the main voices who discovered the origin of COVID. I found evidence of DNA bioweapons planned by the PLA. I covered the floods that China said claimed dozens of lives, but actually killed countless thousands. I covered China's TikTok propaganda campaign aimed at poisoning the minds of Americans for years. I covered the student uprisings that spread across China, demanding justice before being brutally silenced. I covered the Uyghur genocide and the countless victims of China's malicious concentration camps. I covered how China partnered with Russia to help with the Ukraine invasion. I covered the hacks that China committed against my country and its people. I covered the secret Chinese police stations tasked with hurting people like me in the USA. I was then attacked for speaking out. China paid people to go after me. China has tried time and time again to destroy my life and the life of my coworker. And yet I persist because the Chinese government is bad. It's just bad. It's what I believe to be the single worst force on Earth today. Now here's the deal. I have 180 million views. I have 1 million subscribers. I am one of the biggest voices that speaks out against the Chinese government, and I am one of the biggest voices in regards to China on the English-speaking internet, period. I have a very amazing audience that believes in right and wrong. I get views on my content because you deserve to see what's really happening.
So what are you done with? What's this the end of? Don't clickbait us.
Behind what China's trying to cover up. This isn't about me. This is about the future of our world. This is the future of our freedom. This is the future freedom of Chinese people. I put in the work and I put everything on the line to tell you the truth. So maybe you can tell me why you're not seeing my videos anymore. Certainly, in a world where China is discussed more than ever, one of the biggest and most popular YouTubers would show up on your feed talking about the topic that you care enough about to watch videos about it. Right at the time of the US election, YouTube pulled the plug on my channel. The way that people get views on YouTube is YouTube actually recommends videos to them. Like when you open up your feed, you'll see a video from someone that you probably want to watch. Overnight, they stopped recommending my videos to people in my own audience. People came out on
Wow.
me that they don't get
Wow.
recommended or notified of my videos anymore. And it all happened again right after the election. I have no idea why. My views went down by 5 to 10-fold overnight. And that's not organic. YouTube likes to tell creators like myself that, oh, there's just not any interest anymore, but that doesn't happen over the span of one day. In fact, what is happening in my audience is that people are now getting recommended pro-Chinese government content right now. There are thousands of videos in support of the Chinese government. Uyghur genocide denial, you name it, it's out there. It's getting pushed like crazy. The Chinese government is throwing insane amounts of money at this right now to drown out people like myself and promote pro-China content. I mean, look what happens when you search for one of my channels, China Fact Chasers. It'll feed you a sponsored ad for a YouTube video that's being paid for to be promoted to my audience. It's not just travel stuff either. It's pro-Chinese government videos as well. But that doesn't paint the whole picture. It's not just because there's tons of pro-China videos that you're not seeing in my videos. No, 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 no. YouTube has absolutely blacklisted me. I get the feeling that someone at YouTube probably has been tasked with blacklisting anti-CCP content and channels like mine because of this. In fact, let me prove it to you. If you search China on YouTube and you use an incognito window and you even hop around to different servers on your VPN, you're going to notice something. My content doesn't come up at all. Not once. In 500 plus results, my videos do not exist. Don't you think that one of the biggest YouTubers that covers China with over 1 million subscribers and 180 million views would come up? It's literally all I cover, and it's very relevant videos and topics that I make about China that should be populating these search results. Not only...
No, are you serious, Guess? Are you serious, Guess? Connor Point. I don't even know what the hell the guy's name is. ContraPoints. I don't even know what his Twitch name is. Did he post about it? Oh, there's ContraPoints. Oh, Connor. What the hell's his name? Connor Points? He and Rob are having a debate now, and he has no idea he is banned on Twitch. No, he has no clue. Counterpoints on Twitch. Wow, are you serious, Guess? He's debating Rob Noor right now. Why is it not showing up as Is nobody streaming it on YouTube? Are people only streaming it on Twitch? He went full slur attack on Rob. Wow. I wonder how long his ban's for. Oh, there's Rob. There's Rob with 43. Okay, so Rob is live on Twitch for 43 viewers. Dude, that is hilarious, man. What words did he... now I'm curious, can you describe the word he used?
Only does pro-CCP videos show up hundreds of times in these results, straight up propaganda, older CCP propaganda videos that are not even currently relevant anymore show up. China travel content shows up out the wazoo, but also videos with 0 views. YouTube says their algorithm in search is based on competition. Okay, YouTube, I'll play devil's advocate. I'll believe you for a second, but are you really trying to tell me that I'm less relevant than videos about China with no views? 0 views. Before the election, I made a video with over 1 million views. Where's that in the search results? Where's my recent content? Certainly, my China content with hundreds of thousands of views is more relevant than videos about China with no views. I'll make this even scarier. What if I told you that not only is YouTube not showing anti-CCP content, what if I told you they were promoting anti-America content? Let's look at my buddy Serpent ZA. He's been doing really, really, really well on his channel. Wait a minute, though. He wasn't until very recently. YouTube actually killed his channel at the exact same time that they killed mine. How did he manage to pull out of this horrible situation? Well, do you know how he did it? We came up with an experiment. We thought of something. What if on the SerpentZA channel, his channel, we made videos that were anti-CCP but looked like anti-America content? We unleashed this experiment and were not too pleased with the results. When he made videos that looked like pro-China and anti-US content, the views went up 5 times. 5 times the views. In fact, exactly the amount of views that we lost after the election. And look, when you do a YouTube search for China, only his anti-America looking content comes up in the search, not his anti-CCP content. In fact, anti-America, pro-China government channels are absolutely cleaning up right now across the board. So I want to ask you, YouTube, are you being honest? 2 of the biggest YouTubers with China as the topic of their content and only anti-USA videos show up on search results with hundreds of other pro-CCP videos?
Yes, Altair, I'm having a hard time like figuring out, Altair, like, okay, is this a big deal? Is this a big deal? Or is this like, it's another YouTuber complaining about the algorithm? It's like he's bitching and moaning because his videos aren't getting the views. It's like, and it's like, yeah, we have known they promote anti-American stuff. But this is pretty interesting too, that it's just so blatant that, and the proof that he's got is pretty interesting, I think. They love leftist channels. Oh, I know, Altair. It's amazing, Altair, that I've done as well as I have on social media, and that you guys even ever found me, and et cetera, et cetera. You know, it's like it does feel like it's an uphill struggle for conservative content creators online. Although, if I was smart, I guess I'd just focus on X. But that's all. That's like there's like too many conservative content creators on X, so F that. Plus, I like Twitch, as I like live streaming and I like video games. So here I am. And here you are. Just found out Vivek, by the way, guitar player, welcome. Vivek will be speaking at my county geo. Wow. Oh, that makes sense, guitar player, since he's running for governor and you're in Ohio. That's awesome, man. Good for you.
Are you being truthful here? Is that organic? In fact, we spoke to China Uncensored, another anti-CCP channel, and they suffered in a very similar way to us. There is absolutely, positively something going wrong. Did some Silicon Valley tech bros make a deal with China and pull the strings in the background? Is something happening at Google? Was there a political calculation made? We know that China is throwing billions of dollars at search engine optimization and pro-China, pro-CCP content, but that doesn't explain why I cannot compete in search results with videos with no views. Dear YouTube, take the gag order off my channel, off SerpentZA, off anyone that criticizes the CCP, and stop helping them. You're helping the Chinese government straight up attack Americans with propaganda from China and stifling the much needed critical voices that speak the truth against the Chinese government. Also, stop promoting anti-America content while hiding the negative content about China. Let's even the playing field, okay? Since China has unleashed utter warfare against the US, content creators that are critical of the Chinese government have noticed something really horrible. And I think this started with this TikTok ban drama. This caused a tidal wave of Americans to be pushed into other Chinese apps that are being sanitized, censored, and fully controlled by the Chinese government, like RedNote or Xiaohongshu. And this was followed up by China's dumping and promotion of DeepSeek AI, which upended the US economy for a short time, not to mention China hacking our treasury, our citizens, and our American infrastructure with the intent to destroy it and destroy us. China has shown its true colors, and it's time for tech companies, government, and people to do something about this. In this unfair downturn, please consider sharing this or watching some of my other videos in support. But the best way to support me is to join Patreon at patreon.com/ADVpodcasts. You're not just going to support me there. I actually have a secret show with Winston over on Serpents Today called Shaban Ho, which actually means after work. It's a secret show that you can only see if you sign up there.
Wow, man, that is wild. That is absolutely wild. All right, boys, you guys ready for the daily Trump content? Oh, by the way, did you guys see?
Our next guest is sounding the alarm that Silicon Valley and the West have lost their way. Joining us right now is Alex Karp, Palantir CEO and co-founder. His first book is out this morning, The Technological Republic, Hard Power, Soft Belief, and the Future of the West. We want to thank you for joining us.
It's kind of risque.
It's a little risque, you think?
The title, it's hard to know if it's like an off-color movie, Hard Power, Soft. But
I like that. Wow, he goes there early.
It's hard to know. It's hard to know.
I have about a million questions about the book, but before we get there, I just want to ask you a couple things about his first book is out this morning, The Technological Republic, Hard Power, Soft Belief, and the Future of the West. We want to thank you for joining us.
It's kind of risque.
It's a little risque, you think?
The title, it's hard to know if it's like an off-color movie, Hard Power, Soft. But
I like that. Wow, he goes there early.
It's hard to know. It's hard to know.
I have about a million questions about the book, but before we get there, I just want to ask you a couple things about the news, because interestingly, I would say the book, which you wrote a year ago, in a way, you were predicting where we would be today in terms of some of the big issues.
The interesting thing, basically, what people should, it's not actually the standard book comes in two forms. Either promote yourself, it should be Karp AI, or it's somebody running for president. I'm doing neither. And so the book really is an attempt to say, look, everything you learned at your school and college about how the world works is intellectually incorrect. And here is a way of seeing the world that may not be right, but it's not wrong. And so trying to be right is very hard, but you can definitely know what's wrong.
Oh, nice, guitar player. That's awesome. Trump and Elon both on Hannity tonight. Are they going to be on together or separately?
Wrong. And what you've been taught in college, that you basically should have no beliefs, that the West is inferior, that the intellectual tradition of the West, it leads to self-flagellation and losing on the battlefield, losing intellectually, losing your party, losing your country, losing your border, that your institutions can't work because we're so good. It's actually wrong. And the West was actually never about that. And you can be good, decent, and win, and be intellectually correct. And what was absolutely spot on about what's in the book is we have this technological revolution. It's no longer fake. 3-4 years ago, institutions basically thought I'd rather have a good steak dinner and a bad product, and at least I get the steak dinner because the software product doesn't work. Now we are in a software-defined world, and the nation that leads software is the USA. And what does that mean for all institutions? What it means is those institutions have to actually live up to their core mandate. So a country has to have a border, the educational institutions have to work, the military actually has to be scary. You actually can have things function in a way where the outputs are much greater than the inputs. And people who ignore this are going to be washed away.
Why'd you write this? Were you mad at the educational system? Did you think that they were teaching the wrong things? What sparked it?
Look, I think the West, as a notion and as a principle upon which it is executed again, is obviously superior. Mm-hmm. And not acknowledging that, because by not acknowledging it or denying it, you could pretend you were smarter or better than you were, has led to enormous problems in our society. And also, for the sake of humanity, we have been blessed with a resource called talent management and software production that no other country has. So what does that mean for us? What does it mean for the world? How do you manage that ethically? How do you, and how do you prevent what we had? Essentially, we had a pagan religion that has infiltrated our universities. And that pagan religion basically says everything that's good about America, everything that actually works, it is ipso facto bad. And by the way, you can't talk about it not working because it's a religion. So it's not even, it's a new religion. It's not an old great religion, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. It's a new religion, and the tenets are West is bad, nothing can work. If it works, it's bad, and the West is, and that.
Man, it's amazing to sit here and listen to a tech CEO talk like this? This guy's like sounds like a hardcore conservative. I didn't realize he was this conservative.
That way of thinking has corroded every aspect of our society. Last not least, it leads to a situation where you get a complete corrosion of all institutions and to a legitimacy crisis. So no one actually believes anyone's an expert. I'll just make this last point. In the 50s, if there was this famous professor, Ken Arrow, and if Ken Arrow said you were smart, you got tenure. And why did that happen? It was because people knew Ken Arrow is smart. The institution he represents is the best in the world. There is no one like, honestly, the only thing like that currently in tech is a Palantir degree. If you work for Palantir, everyone knows you're good. And that's basically none of these, like when we went to school, the schools actually had credibility. The people, the science was actually science. You could.
Okay, so let me just ask, and then I want to actually get into some of the news, but what would you do to bring it back? And do you think we're on that path now?
Well, I think actually, so one of the things that's not in the book, I think if you read the book, it reads like it was written today. But so I'll just, one of the things that I would, if I were writing the book today, there's a sense that people have that there's a pendulum swing. So if you if you look at institutions that are failing and you talk to the smart people there, universities, UN, Democratic Party, they'll tell you there's going to be a pendulum swing back. But AI is actually breaking the pendulum swung. So what Europe thinks, if you're like, I spent half my life in Germany, you talk to smart Germans, they're like, okay, we're having a bad time. We're going to have a good time. We did this under Schroeder. It'll come back. We don't actually agree with all the stuff that people say. We can't say it publicly. That's what they say. Okay, but what they're not understanding is the technical revolution now is so great, you got to get on the train because that train is leaving and there is not going to be a swing back. So what I'm trying to say to people who are on the pendulum, people who are builders, is like, we have a responsibility. We have to be dedicated to our nation. What I'm saying to people who may think they can get off the train, university intellectuals, United Nations dedicated to undermining America and anyone who's Jewish or something.
Oh, man, I love this guy. Palantir's defense tech, right? Yes, and a big part of their business is defense, yes. A lot of these defense tech guys are different than the rest of Silicon Valley. Correct, Prola. Yeah, they do defense work, but they're not primarily defense tech. Maybe I take it back. I'm thinking Anduril. Anduril and Palantir I'd kind of put in the same bucket. Prola. Yeah, all Lord of the Rings references, Palantir and Anduril, all sort of like associated with like Peter Thiel and types or people that are associated with Peter Thiel or Elon Musk, like the PayPal people, everything. I actually am heavily invested in Palantir right now, just kind of as an interesting like stock market play, even though it's at like all-time highs. And but dude, check this out. It will not stop going up. It's up another 5% today, dude. Look at the 1 year on this thing. I mean, it's got to come down, right? It's got to come down eventually, but this thing will not drop. I don't understand what made it go up. So, analyst on Palantir, I can't really justify buying at current price. I don't understand what made it go up today. I think what it was, by the way, is I think Elon Musk tweeted out a clip of this.
You're being left behind. And by the way, I'm happy you're being left behind. But just know, if you get left behind, do not cry that you're not part of the dialogue.
Right.
And that's actually what's happening. They're like crying, like all these people are becoming protest parties. It's like, I grew up protesting in DC with my parents and no one listened. If you want to go back to that, just do not read the book. Pretend this isn't happening.
Alex, how did so many, whoever's hiring at colleges, it was just sort of a mass hysteria to all be on the same page for who gets tenure and what dogma and orthodoxy makes you attractive to college, because it's everywhere. I don't understand how it happened. And I don't think we ever get it back.
Well, I understand how it happens. It's like this country is fundamentally Calvinist. So that's one of the great strengths of this country. And what Calvinism basically says, as opposed to like Lutheranism and other, is if you've done something big and important, you're probably a good person. And what you had at universities was an inversion and rejection of that. And so all the intellectual movements are downstream from that. And so and that inversion is very, very charismatic. If you want to assume that you are right because you're wrong, basically. And it's a very, very charismatic movement. But I think the area where we bear...
You want to assume that you're right because you're wrong, basically? Dude, this guy's incredible.
Responsibility to disagree with it is we have to stand up and say, but this doesn't work. We have to, you know, one of the things in the book that's unusual is I'm quoting, like, judge them by the fruits they bear. Like, we have, okay, you're in favor of this world order. What have you built that works? What, just like, show me any institution that you've created, any institution. And I want to see that institution where the inputs are less than the outputs. So it's, okay, and I don't care what it is. It could be an intellectual project. It can be a road. It can be a skyscraper. It can be a weapon system. And what you will find is they'll literally say, I reject that frame. And that's okay. But it's our responsibility to hold them to account. You rejected the frame of something that could work. I'm not saying that everything I'm saying is right. I don't know that. But I am certain that what you're saying does not work, and you will be left behind in history.
Wow. Like, that's wild, dude. That guy's the stock market. His stock went up 5% today. Oh yeah, I was gonna look at Elon Musk because Elon Musk tweeted out a part of that interview that Alex Karp did, and I think that's what caused the
great call out there for landing burn startup.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Of the Falcon 9 first stage. We're now waiting for Falcon 9 to land on Just Read the Instructions, currently off the coast of the Bahamas.
Just read the instructions.
Deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And there you heard that call out for successful landing of our Falcon 9 rocket, and you can hear the cheering behind me. Welcome to the Bahamas, Falcon 9.
Okay, that's cool. This is the first time that a rocket has taken off from one country, gone to space, and landed in another country. The Bahamas just leveled up.
The American people are exhausted and tired of watching their tax dollars be corruptly spent, abused, wasted, and in every sense robbed and stolen from them. This president, for the first time in history, is committed to restoring accountability at every level of the federal government. You may assert there's no waste in the Pentagon. You may assert there's no waste in
Stephen,
Treasury.
I'm not
you may assert there's no waste in HHS.
That, Stephen, I don't think anyone...
Then why are you not celebrating these cuts? If you agree there is waste, if you agree there is abuse, if you agree there is corruption, why are you not celebrating the cuts, the reforms that are being instituted? Every day that no action is taken, the entire salaries of American workers that are
Stephen, let's calm down. He's on a roll, lady. Let him go.
Taxed disappear forever.
Stephen, let's calm down.
This is
we're not having a debate.
There's no reason
about whether there are places.
You are clearly trying to debate me, and I will be as excited as I want to be about the fact that we are saving Americans billions of dollars, that we are ending the theft and waste and grift and corruption, that we are stopping American taxpayer dollars from subsidizing a rogue federal bureaucracy that has been relentlessly weaponized against the American people.
Okay,
you
Stephen,
may not care about this issue.
I'm not talking about
your colleagues may not care about this issue, but we care about this issue. The American people care about this issue.
They also care about privacy.
And the American public overwhelmingly supports what President Trump is doing.
Amazing. What's this? Rapid Response 47? Followed, liked, subscribed, retweeted. Oh man, Zacchaeus, what's up? Makes me worried we are having more successful rocket landings but less successful plane landings. That's pretty funny, Prolaw. That's a good point. This looks like a pretend stream to me. What makes you think it's real? Bro, Jay Brown, bro. S-Rule, what up, S-Rule? I 100% agree, but don't think this will change, though. I saw this one earlier. You can hear the air flowing out of her head. It's incredible. Lady, let's calm down. We aren't trying to air up monster truck tires. The only people who still watch CNN are stuck in airports. Oh, man, that is...
No. I'm not giving you feedback on your little BS.
Altair with the 25-bit pretend stream. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate your little BS. All right, guys. Here we go. Trump content. The daily Trump content.
So the fire. I want to thank some of the great people from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. They're here to take photographs, and it's my honor to do so. Also, the fire department, the great firefighters. So they're here throughout the room, and I want to thank you very much for being here. I'll be with you in a little while. We'll do some great photos. We have plenty of time. Policemen, policewomen, and firemen, firewomen, they're here, and we appreciate it very much. You've done a fantastic job. I think it's very important to state that incredible things are happening in our country. I think we've made progress. In 3 weeks, and they've made.
Speaking of which, hold on. Let me take just see how fake news judges freaking out. Let's see how bad they're freaking out. The Cuban and the Russian reset in Riyadh. Kyiv left out. Fuck Trump steal. Matt risks making war worse. Ukraine to be carved up. Oh, the headlines are hilarious, man. What site is that? This is Drudge, man. This is Drudge. The Cuban and the Russian reset in Riyadh. What the heck? Noam directs polygraph use to target homeland leaks. Russian official heaps praise on the Don. Putin carte blanche to attack London, Paris, or Brussels. Oh, man. Pope warns confidants he may not survive health scare. Trump plots to take control of U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. Excuse me? Trump plots to take control? He's the president. He is in control. My goodness. Musk flails around comparing Trump derangement to rabies. Says 60-Minute journalists deserve long prison sentence. Bannon tears into Elon, parasitic illegal immigrant. Where the F are the Doge cuts?
In 4 years, especially with respect to the reputation of our country.
Did you read the Danielle Sassoon resignation letter thing? No. No, what was it? Whoa. Oh my goodness. Thank you. That looks great. This is the one where she dropped out because she refused to drop the case. I saw clips of it or I don't know.
And people are respecting us again as a country and as a powerful country and maybe a smart country, but maybe not so smart, because when you look at some of the waste, fraud, and abuse that's being uncovered by Doge and the people at Doge, these are young, often young, but super brilliant people, incredible computer scientists and other things. And they're finding levels of fraud and waste and abuse like I think nobody ever thought possible. But before we do that, I just want to ask Will to come over. I've just finished signing some executive orders, and if we could start with that, Will, you might want to come up here and just explain what we did. Thank you.
Good afternoon, y'all. A short while ago, President Trump signed three items. The first is an executive order relating to the affordability and availability of in vitro fertilization and other fertility treatments. These are treatments that have become unaffordable for many Americans, or have been unaffordable for many Americans. And the executive order is a directive to the Domestic Policy Council to examine ways to make IVF and other fertility treatments more affordable for more Americans. The second item that we signed was a presidential memorandum imposing radical transparency requirements on government departments and agencies, in keeping with President Trump and the administration's broader commitment to governmental transparency. What this presidential memorandum would do is require, as waste, fraud, and abuse is uncovered, as programs are canceled, and as...
Sorry, I'm eating a potato here, but wanted to welcome Num. Good to see you, Num. It didn't read like a resignation. I loved how they called her bluff. If you don't meet with me, I resign. They're just like, okay, we accept. She demanded a meeting with them. Wow. How blatantly obvious is that she was just trying to benefit herself?
Ultimately, as taxpayer dollars are saved, this presidential memorandum would require departments and agencies to make all of the details of that freely available to the public. Lastly, we have another executive order that President Trump signed relating to independent agencies. This executive order would establish important oversight functions in the Office of Management and Budget and its subsidiary office, OIRA, supervising independent agencies and many of their actions, and also reestablishes the longstanding norm that...
I love whoever this guy is. Well, whoever this guy is, he's like the best secretary or like assistant, like legal assistant or whatever this guy is. Like, he's fantastic.
Only the president or the attorney general can speak for the United
Bad boys, what up?
United States when stating an opinion as to what the law is.
Thank you very much, Will. That was the primary purpose of this conference, to explain that they're all very important in their own way. Fertilization, I've been saying that we're going to do what we have to do, and I think the women and families, husbands, are very appreciative of it. But that was it. I do want to say while I'm up here, I've been contacted by some of the biggest companies in the world, and because of what we're doing economically and through tariffs and taxes and incentives, they want to come back into the United States. And we'll be announcing various very large companies, the biggest actually, and they'll be coming back, having to do with chips and having to do also with cars and lots of other things. We're going to be announcing some very, very big momentous decisions are being made by companies all around the world, the biggest, and they want to come back into the U.S. Car plants are being canceled in other locations now because they want to build them here. And you read about a couple, not that I want to mention names or anything, but you read about a couple of big ones in Mexico just got canceled because they're going to be building them in the United States. And that's very simply because of what we're doing with respect to taxes, tariffs, and incentives. And I think it's a very important thing. And you'll be seeing this over the next...
Taxes, tariffs, and incentives. Trump says that if that's like, as if that's like a term of art. Trump's, or whatever it is. It's like, huh.
Probably over the next 2 years, to be honest, but you're going to see a lot of it over the next couple of weeks. A lot of big ones are going to be announcing. And so while we're here, I guess we can take a couple of quick questions. Go ahead, please. Please.
Who decided specifically what the auto tariff rate should be?
Yeah, I probably will tell you that on April 2nd, but it'll be in the neighborhood of 25%.
Semiconductors and pharmaceuticals?
It'll be 25% and higher, and it'll go very substantially higher over a course of a year. But we want to give them time to come in because, as you know, when they come into the United States and they have their plant or factory here, there is no tariff. So we want to give them a little bit of a chance. Yes, thank you.
The EU, I'm sorry, Andrea Shalal, the EU representative is going to be here in Washington next week. I'm sorry, tomorrow. He's going to be meeting with Hassett and Greer and Letnick. What can the EU do to sort of avoid the reciprocal tariffs that you've talked about? And, you know, you've talked a lot about the...
Nothing, lady. You know how you avoid reciprocal tariffs? You don't have tariffs. Because then we reciprocated. We don't have tariffs. Are you dumb?
VAT, do you expect them to reduce that?
Well, they did already, as I understand it, reduce their car tariff all the way down to what we have. And a lot of that will take place, and I think some won't do it and some will do it. But the EU had a 10% tax on cars, and now they have a 2.5% tax, which is the exact same as us. So already we've saved a tremendous amount. That would be great. If everybody would do that, then we'd all be on the same playing field. Because essentially what we're doing with the tariffs is, you know, they charge us, we charge them, same amount. And it's called reciprocal, actually. And whatever they charge us, we're charging them. And so the EU is, you know, I appreciate that they did this, but, you know.
It's called reciprocal, actually.
So the EU is...
Oh, sad guitar player.
Been very unfair to us. We have a deficit of $350 billion. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm products. They don't take almost anything. They take very little. And we're going to have to straighten that out. And we will. I have no doubt about it. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could you tell us a little bit more about the Russia talks, your impression of how they went today, and if you're perhaps more confident or less confident of a deal after what happened today?
Well, much more confident. They were very good. Russia wants to do something. They want to stop the savage barbarianism. I mean, what's going on over there? It's soldiers are being killed by the thousands on a weekly basis. It's ridiculous. And they're not American soldiers. They're Russian soldiers and they're Ukrainian soldiers largely, although a lot of Koreans have been killed, as you know. Quite a bit of them have been killed. They came over to fight and a large portion have been wiped out. But we want to end it. It was...
Why are they showing the media instead of Trump?
Okay.
Wiped out. But we want to end it. It's a senseless war. It should have never happened. Would have never happened if I was president. And it's a shame to see it. And I see pictures that you don't see, but I see pictures of fields that look just horrible. It looks like Gettysburg. If you see the old pictures of Gettysburg, it's soldiers lying all over the field, body parts all over the field. They're all dead. And this is going on a daily basis. It's a horrible thing. Both Russia and Ukraine, they're losing thousands and thousands of soldiers. And a lot of people have been killed, too. I think that's one of the things that you'll see historically and you'll see later on as it goes along. I think people are going to be surprised at how many people, not only soldiers, have been killed in Ukraine. A lot more people than you think. Yeah, please.
President Trump, as part of a peace deal with Putin, would you be willing to consider removing all American troops from Europe?
Well, nobody's asked me to do that, so I don't think we'd have to do that. I wouldn't want to do that. But that question's never really come up. Yeah, please.
Sir, do you support stationing European peacekeeping troops in Ukraine as part of this peace deal?
If they want to do that, that's great. I'm all for it. If they want to do that, I think that'd be fine. I mean, I know France has mentioned it. Others have mentioned it. UK has mentioned it. But yeah, if we have a peace deal, I think having troops over there from the standpoint of Europe, we won't have to put any over there because, you know, we're very far away. But having troops over there would be fine. I would not object to it at all. We're talking about this now, peace. We have either a ceasefire or a peace itself, and we're looking to do both. Would start off with the ceasefire. And if they want to do that, I know France was willing to do that, and I thought that was a beautiful gesture. Yeah, please.
Do you have any message for Ukrainians who, after 3 years of fighting, might feel betrayed or disappointed at not having a seat at these initial talks in Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think I'm really disappointed in what's happened. I've been watching this for 3 years. It's a war that would have never happened if I was president. And I've been watching these people being killed at levels that you've rarely seen, not even close, since the Second World War. And I'm very disappointed. I hear that, they're upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years and a long time before that. This could have been settled very.
Man, it's a little bit interesting because I have been surprised at how tough Trump has been on Ukraine and Zelensky. I mean, criticizing them for not having elections, calling them out for not making a deal sooner, all this stuff. I'm kind of surprised at how aggressively anti-Ukraine Trump is being. I think it's because, but then what's funny is sort of you see the other parts. You see J.D. Vance, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio being much tougher on China. So I don't know if it's like a good cop, bad cop thing going on here or what.
Very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago without the loss of much land, very little land, without the loss of any lives, and without the loss of cities that are just laying on their sides. You have those magnificent golden domes that are shattered, will never be replaced. You can't replace them. 1,000-year-old domes that are so beautiful, you can't replace that. The whole civilization has changed because of what. So when they're worried about not being seated, you mean somebody that should have gone in and made a deal a long time ago? You could have made a deal. This is one that could have made a deal. There was no talk of this during the Trump administration. Putin would have never, ever done it. And by the way, we wouldn't have had October 7th. You know that? We wouldn't
Miss
have had
Foxy,
October 7th
what up?
either in Israel.
Miss Foxy, welcome. Do you agree with the deficit point being a bad thing? I don't know what you mean by that, Estrel. Would have been great to have him on the radio during the Biden years. Yeah, it would have. Eliminating the trade deficit would increase GDP, bringing in more revenue to help with our budget deficit along with cuts. Maybe it's just to troll the media. If we could hold elections during the Civil War, Ukraine can still hold elections. Right.
And we wouldn't have had that mess that's going on over there. It's like we have great fire people here. We're putting out fires all over the world. We're putting out fires. So that wouldn't have happened. And you know what else wouldn't have happened? Inflation. Because it was caused really by the cost of energy going through the roof because of their bad energy policies and also their spending, their terrible spending, wasteful spending on the Green New Scam. It's a scam. It's a whole big scam. Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. I want to ask you a little closer to home. What would it take for you to reconsider the restrictions on the Associated Press? And secondly, some of your advisors are concerned with the Associated Press's style guide, using language and giving guidance to not use words like illegal immigrant or to use phrases like gender affirming care. And they're concerned about that being an encroaching of liberalism in the way in which the press writes about things. Do you share those concerns?
Well, I do think that some of the phrases that they want to use are ridiculous. And I think, frankly, they become obsolete, especially in the last 3 weeks, because many things have happened in the last 3 weeks. And I didn't know about that, but I would say that if they want to use certain phrases like that, and I guess some are okay, but many aren't. But the Associated Press just refuses to go with what the law is and what is taking place. It's called the Gulf of America now. It's not called the Gulf of Mexico any longer. I have the right to do it, just like we have the right to do Mount McKinley, and nobody's even challenging that. But only the essentially, it's primarily the Associated Press. And I don't know what they're doing, but I just say that we're going to keep them out until such time as they agree that it's the Gulf of America. We're very proud of this country, and we want it to be the Gulf of America. Now, the Associated Press, as you know, has been very, very wrong on the election, on Trump and the treatment of Trump and other things having to do with Trump and Republicans and conservatives. And they're doing us no favors, and I guess I'm not doing them any favors. That's the way life works. But, thank you for the question. Who are you with? Very good question. Thank you. Yes.
Hold on. What was the actual question? I'm surprised. Trump never says good question.
We're hearing that Russia wants to force Ukraine to hold new elections in order to sign any kind of a peace deal. Is that something that the U.S. would ever support?
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine. Well, we have martial law, essentially martial law in Ukraine.
And Trump, have we had elections in Russia? Oh yeah, we have. Where Putin won 98% of the vote. Oh, do you buy that, Trump?
Very good question. Thank you. Yes.
Ruddy. Thank you, Ruddy. You too, man.
Hearing that Russia wants to force Ukraine to hold new elections in order to sign any kind of a peace deal. Is that something that the U.S. would ever support?
Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, essentially martial law in Ukraine, where the leader in Ukraine, I mean, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating. And we're a country.
He's down to what percent?
Leader in Ukraine, I mean, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating. And we're a country.
He's got 4% approval. Zelensky's that's 4% approval.
Has been blown to smithereens. You got most of the cities are laying on their sides. The buildings are collapsed. It looks like a massive demolition.
Yeah, and that's Russia's fault, not Ukraine's fault.
Site. The whole, I mean, so many of the cities. I mean, they haven't done it in Kiev because I guess they don't want to shoot too many rockets in there. They've done it 20%, but they haven't done it 100%. If they wanted to do it 100%, it would probably happen very quickly. But you have cities that are absolutely decimated. And yeah, I would say that, you know, when they want a seat at the table, you could say the people have to, wouldn't the people of Ukraine have to say, like, you know, it's been a long time since we've had an election. That's not a Russia thing. That's something coming from me and coming from many other countries also. You know, Ukraine is being just wiped out. Look at what's happening to the cities. There are cities, there's not even a building standing. It's a massive, you talk about Gaza. I mean, it's literally, these cities look like Gaza. Actually, many have percentage-wise more buildings knocked down than in Gaza. So, you know, people are tired of it. People want to see something happen. And, you know, the other thing that
PM, what's up, PM?
Me for a long time because I solved the problem with NATO. They paid hundreds of billions of dollars into the funds of NATO when I said you got to.
I don't have cable TV, so I can't watch Hannity. Hopefully they post it to YouTube afterwards. Ariel, oh my gosh, Ariel, Stephen Miller killed it on CNN. All I saw was a little clip. I want to see the whole thing. All I saw was like a minute and a half. Denaturalization. I love how YouTube, if you search Stephen Miller on YouTube suggests denaturalization, which is absolutely hilarious. Stephen Miller just ended the. Of course, it's nowhere. The full thing is nowhere to be found. Let's see if I can find it on.
You mentioned yesterday, and you mentioned again here, illegal immigrants who are getting child tax credits. Are you looking for that information in the IRS data?
Anytime a crime is committed, of course there should be an investigation. Is it your position that if somebody who is
Stephen,
here
are you looking for that
criminally
information in the
taxpayer
IRS
dollars,
data?
the federal government will find every illegal alien who is stealing American taxpayer dollars. And that is what Americans
will you
expect
find that
to happen.
in the IRS
I don't
data
even
and
fathom
share
the
that with
premise
law
of your
enforcement?
question.
It's a simple question. Will you
Anyone
find that
who's-
information in the IRS data and share that with law enforcement?
Why won't he just say yes, though? Come on, man.
IRS investigators find illegal aliens stealing taxpayer money. Of course, they'll be referred to ICE. Of course, they'll be referred to Homeland Security investigations. Of course, it will be. Surely your position is not that we should let illegal aliens steal taxpayer dollars. Again, you want to talk about something to be upset about, that's it. What do you think? The millions of illegal aliens who've also stolen Social Security. Illegal aliens in mass have fake Social Security numbers.
Dude, I love this so much. She is so uncomfortable. You know why? Because what Stephen Miller is saying and how he's acting, they think you ought to be banned for saying stuff like that. They think you ought to lose your job for saying stuff like that. They think you ought to have your social media accounts banned and terminated for saying stuff like that. And instead, she has to sit there and take it because he's speaking for the White House. Love it.
They have fake identities. Those are felonies. Why should there be an entire class in this country that is immunized from criminal prosecution?
Judge Sonia Tukin just issued a verdict on the 22 state DAs and government employee unions. They failed to show cause, so Doge can continue its audit of the 7 government. Are you serious? Restraining order denied? Are you serious, guys? Judge Tanya Chutkin? No. I thought she was a radical leftist Trump hater judge. Are you serious? Why? How?
Prosecution and arrest for committing felonies. Felony theft of taxpayer information, felony theft of Social Security, felony theft of identity. These are all crimes. And yes, they will be investigated. Yes, they will be prosecuted. And yes, illegal aliens will be deported. And you know what happens when those deportations occur?
Just very quickly,
is that Americans will get jobs, Americans will get benefits, Americans will get houses.
Stephen, if they got a credit, a child tax credit, and they will be referred, you're saying, to ICE for that, and you would expect deported for that. Is that the position of the administration?
If it is found that a crime has been committed, they'll be referred.
Yeah, in other words, yes. Just say yes. If they're stealing taxpayer dollars by illegally claiming the child tax credit when they're not entitled to it, yes, that's a crime. And if they're an illegal alien on top of it and they're stealing and committing IRS crimes, yeah, they're going home. We're sending them home. What's wrong with that?
If it justifies a prosecution, they'll be prosecuted. If it justifies a deportation, they will be deported. This will be based on existing IRS protocols and procedures for criminal investigation and fraud.
All right,
the difference is that no one is given immunity anymore. No one is given permission to break the law anymore. Because this is not a country, this is not a sovereign territory. If illegal aliens can freely steal billions, with a B, billions of taxpayer dollars. And I would have to imagine that CNN, which is endlessly talks about the importance of democracy and the rule of law, would say that no class in this country should be above the law, least of all illegal aliens who've trespassed on our territory.
No, Stephen, I'm just asking, I wanted to get your position on some things. We're not taking a position here. We wanted to get some answers to some questions. There are so many questions that need to be answered.
It doesn't sound to me like you are, in fact,
you.
indifferent or unbiased on these questions, but thank you.
Stephen Miller, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Look at that smile on Stephen Miller's face, dude. Oh my gosh, look at the smile on his face.
We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Holy cow, man.
Chief of Staff for Policy. Stephen, thank you so much for taking time for us. So who is in charge of Doge?
The President of the United States.
He's the administrator of Doge?
No, the Doge is what was formerly U.S. Digital Services. It's an agency of the federal government that reports into the executive office of the president, which reports to the President of the United States.
Okay.
The way that Article 2 works is the president wins an election, and then he appoints staff, including myself, including Mike Waltz, including Susie Wiles, including Elon Musk, and those staff report to him.
Okay, well aware. So Elon Musk a week ago, and
then why are you asking who runs Doge as if it's a controversy then?
answered a question about transparency at Doge. This is how he spoke about Doge.
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, our actions, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent.
You hear him there. We post our actions. All of our actions are maximally transparent. Does Elon Musk know he's not in charge of Doge?
Again, the president runs the government, then the president appoints advisors, including Elon, including myself, including all the other staff here at the White House, and then those staff in turn execute the president's commands and directions to all the agencies of the federal government. This is how democracy works, something that we treasure in America. The whole American people go to the ballot box, they elect the president appoints staff, the staff then administer his orders and directives across the whole U.S. government.
Okay, Stephen, I get that, but this is important because we want to talk about who's making the decisions here. There were 300 employees, the National Nuclear Security Administration, you know about this, they were fired.
Yeah, CNN, it is important, and we do want to know who's making the decisions. You know who that is? That's Donald J. Trump. Isn't that wonderful? Unlike how you want it, which is these deep state hacks.
Fired. The agency had to rescind those terminations because these were employees who were critical to maintaining the nation's nuclear.
She didn't even come up with this. I can see how some low-level staffer being tasked by some producer to come up with a list of quotes from us that make it sound like he runs it. Oh, I know, Pro-Law, for sure. For sure. I thought what she was going to say, honestly, okay, so Pro-Law, when she actually played that clip and then went back to it, I thought what she was going to say was that, hey, this clip shows that Elon Musk and his Doge minions are posting stuff to the Doge Twitter handle without involving Trump. See how Elon Musk is talking about how he just posts stuff to Doge and he just discloses it to Doge? He doesn't talk about how he gets approval from the president. That's what I thought she was going to go with it. I think CNN could use a downsizing. Too many doing nothing. I agree. Yo, our built environment. What's up, our built? Is this guy anti-police, deep stage stooges? Am I right? Like local police? No. Federal, like IRS agents with M16s? Yeah, I am. Anti that. Thank you very much. One trick Dems often pull is to conflate your local police department with IRS agents with M16s. And then when you oppose IRS agents with M16s, you're now anti-police. Pretty stupid trick, really. My local police have M16s now. I'm worried. You don't get it, man. You don't get it. Our built environment. It's funny.
Department of Government.
It sounds good. It sounds good. All right, who linked this? Oh, is this you guess? CBS is wrong about free speech in Germany and the rise of Nazism. Oh, thank goodness. No, I haven't read this. I saw this clip though, and it was ridiculous. No, I haven't read this. I'll read that.
Pay because the United States was paying for European countries, and then they take advantage of us on trade. But I've seen it. Look, we have to.
Are you serious, Guess? They banned Rob for it? What was it? Guess, what was it? Can you explain what the slur was, Guess? Like, don't say it, please. Don't say it. Don't violate TOS. But, like, explain, like, what it was. Like, what does the word start with, and what is it a slur of? And let me see if I can think of it. Homophobic. Homophobic slur? And it starts with F? No. Connor Points actually called them that? Wait, Connor Points actually called Rob the F word? No. How did he think he could get away? Yes, he used it on Rob and Trump. Fraud got banned. Yup, I was there. PM was there too. And now Rob got banned. No. Dude, why? Why did he do that? I was not there. Yeah, you guys, everybody that was there was choosing to watch Fraud and Rob instead of the Lecture Fan stream. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It doesn't bother me one bit, honestly. The fact that you guys are even here on occasion means the world to me. So, in fact, whenever I get rated by like Rob or somebody like that, and then I can see, and then people start typing in the chat, and Twitch shows me who's the raider. It's always people raiding into my stream that are like my good friends on Twitch and my longtime viewers. I'm like, oh, awesome. Now you're here too. Cool. So anyway, that's crazy. Why did he do it though? That's what I don't get there. He also used the R word too. Wow, did he really, Scooby? Rob should appeal it. I don't think Connor can appeal it. I mean, by the way, guys, I am a Twitch appeals consultant. Oh, Eric Smith is in the house. Eric Smith on YouTube. Are you still there, Eric Smith? I don't know if I saw your things quickly enough. Eric Smith, are you still there? It says, it's so funny that now they ask a bunch of questions. No questions when it came to Biden, though. If you ain't seen the clown show media for what it is, you're not paying attention. Appreciate the stream. Amen, Eric Smith. You're absolutely right, Eric Smith. You're absolutely right about that. Well said. Well said. I hope I saw that. We got a YouTube chatter. I hope I saw that before you pieced out, Eric. Let me know if you're still there in YouTube. I can't believe Connor Points. What was he thinking?
They have to pay. They have to find out where's the money going to. We have, I believe, President Zelensky said last week that he doesn't know where half of the money is that we gave him. Well, we gave them, I believe, $350 billion, but let's say it's something less than that, but it's a lot. And we have to equalize with Europe because Europe has given us given a very much smaller percentage than that. I think Europe has given 100 billion and we've given, let's say, 300 plus. And it's more important for them than it is for us. We have an ocean in between, and they don't. But where is all the money that's been given? Where is it going? And nobody, I've never seen an accounting of it. We give hundreds of billions.
That guy was unhinged and called Rob everything but a white man. Really? So Connor was just losing his shit just in general, huh? Holy cow. Why? Because Rob was actually calling. I bet that was entertaining. I want to go. Does anybody have the video? I want to go back and watch it. Obviously, I won't watch it on Twitch. It was heated. It was heated. Oh man. Oh man. I want to watch it. Now that sounds entertaining as all hell. Yes, thanks. Oh, nice, Eric. Cool.
Of dollars, I don't see any accounting. So I want to see peace. Look. You know why I want? Because I don't want all these people killed anymore. I'm looking at people that are being killed, and they're Russian and Ukrainian people, but they're people. Doesn't matter where they're from on the whole planet. And I think I have the power to end this war. And I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But they chose not to do it that way. And President Biden, in all fairness, he doesn't have a clue. What he was so bad for this. It was so bad, so pathetic. It's so sad.
So, okay, so now Trump is basically... I find that very telling right there because in the one sort of moment where he's being really, really tough on Ukraine, he actually brings it back and actually blames Biden for it. Notice that? So I mean, I think that Trump is playing something very, very complex here with sort of how he's out there saying things, what JD Vance is saying in Europe, what's going on behind the scenes, and then him and little things like that are little tells, like, you know, when he's trying to go hard in on Ukraine and then he comes in fairness and goes back to Biden.
But with all of that being said, look, it is what it is. When I left, there was no chance that this could have happened, but it happened because we had incompetent leadership at many different levels. But when you see what's taking place in Ukraine with millions of people killed, including the soldiers, millions of people killed, a big percentage of their cities knocked down to the ground. I don't know how anybody even lives there. You know, when they say they took a poll and Zelensky's at 4%, who's living there? You know, I mean, it's hard to believe that people live there. Their cities are
30 days. That's before the appeal, though, right? Guess that's before the appeal. Wow.
Are being knocked down. And this is something that would have never happened. And
in 2025, dude, here we are in 2025, and people are still having their literal livelihood social media accounts. Now, for me and Rob and Connor, probably it's not our livelihoods. We do this as a side thing, but like, it could be, right? Like, for all intents and purposes, like your Twitch account can be like your business, and it can just be taken from you in a moment because of one word said like in 2025, really? He just read the email on his YouTube. Wow.
By the way, for 4 years, it didn't happen. It was never going to happen.
Wow, Nom. How evil. 1927 ethos. What up?
Go ahead.
Follow-up question. How would you counter the perception, because Russia's pushing for this, obviously, they don't really hold true elections, that would be a capitulation of some sort? How would you guard against potentially Russia installing a puppet government? And then finally, how would that new election have an impact on getting Zelensky to sign the rare earth minerals deal?
Look, you have leadership, and I like him personally. He's fine. But I don't care about personally. I care about getting the job done. You have leadership now that's allowed a war to go on that should have never even happened, even without the United States. Look, we had a president who was grossly incompetent. He had no idea what he was doing. He said some very stupid things, like going in for portions and all of the things. He made a lot of bad statements, but he's grossly incompetent, and I think everyone knew that. This is something that should have never happened, would have never happened. And I used to discuss it with Putin. President
You think
Putin
it was intentional? TLS, Wait, TLS, why do you think why do you think Fraud Points did it intentionally? Why? 75 degrees in here. Yeah.
Talk about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye, I will tell you that. But there was never a chance of him going in. And I told him, you better not go in. Don't go in. Don't go in. And he understood that. He understood it fully. But I'm only interested. I want to see if I can save maybe millions of lives. This could even end up in a World War III. I mean, to be honest with you, you've been hearing now Europe is saying, well, I think we're going to go in and we're going to go. All of a sudden, you're going to end up in World War III over something that should have never happened. And, you know, it's a very sad situation. Yeah, please.
In a court filing, the White House said that Elon Musk is not a DOJ employee and has no authority to make decisions. Can you clarify for us today
well, Elon Musk,
what his exact role is there?
Yeah. Elon is, to me, a patriot. So, you know, you could call him an employee, you could call him a consultant, you could call him whatever you want. But he's a patriot. I mean, look at the kind of things I just said. Just write it down, just in case that question got asked, right? And which I'm surprised it took so long, actually. But
wait, what was the question? Hold on, sorry, I was reading Doge.
House said that Elon Musk is not a Doge.
Should have never happened. And you know, it's a very sad situation. Yeah, please.
In a court filing, the White House said that Elon Musk is not a DOJ employee and has no authority to make decisions. Can you clarify for us today
well, Elon
what
Musk,
his exact role is there?
Yeah. Elon is.
Yeah. I love how Trump never lets them finish their question. Trump always starts answering the question before the reporters are done, and then if they insist on finishing, you're just like, yeah, while they're finishing. Dims are strange. 100% he said the F slur word about 12 to 15 times at the end of the debate. Wait, why did he say it over and over again? Yes, he said slurs. He said homophobic rants. He knows the TOS. Oh, I thought he said it one time. You're telling me that he said it like 10 to 15 times? To get Rob banned. Wait, no possible way. Why did Connor want to get Rob banned? And why doesn't Connor care about getting banned? I'm so lost. Like, what the heck is going on here? Why didn't Connor care about getting banned on Twitch? Does he not stream on Twitch anymore? Connor has been increasingly toxic ever since he took PAC money.
To me, a patriot. So, you know, you could call him an employee, you could call him a consultant, you could call him whatever you want. But he's a patriot. I mean, look at the kind of things I just said. Just write it down, just in case that question got asked, right? And which I'm surprised it took so long, actually. But you know what? Ukraine's a bigger deal because people are dying by the thousands a week, thousands. But look at this, from 90 to 99, Social Security, 6,054,000 people. Well, that's okay. Maybe that's possible. You know, 90 to 90, 99, maybe it's possible. It's still a lot of people, though, at that. But people that live to 100 to 109, 4,734,000. Wow, that's a lot. That means over 100 years old. They're 4 million people. I don't know too many. I know people that are doing great in their 90s, but not too many people over 100. But
I know people that are doing great in their 90s, but not too many people over 100. Oh, Donald Trump is an absolute comedic genius. This guy is an absolute comedic genius.
Over 120, from 120 years, people that live to 100 to 109, 4,734,000. Wow, that's a lot. That means over 100 years old. They're 4 million.
Okay, hold on. Let me read the chat. I thought that guy was gonna punch his computer screen. He was so mad. If him and Rob were in the same room, I think he might have swung on Rob. Wow, really? He hates Rob that much? Wait, why doesn't he care? Oh, yeah, if Rob got 30 days, fraud points got the same, but it might be permanent since Rob's email said hate speech on his channel. That still doesn't make sense. Like if Connor got banned as well, it still doesn't make sense why he would do it on purpose to get Rob banned. It's like, unless he's like a suicide bomber. I mean, is Connor points like did he literally suicide bomb his own Twitch channel? Like, what is happening here?
Yeah, people, I don't know too many. I know people that are doing great in their 90s, but not too many people over 100. But over 120, from 120 years old, people that are 120 years old up to 129, 3,472,000 people. Wow. You know, that can't possibly be, because the record is like, I think it's one person, a woman, lived to 127, but they have 3,472. Okay, but now we're going really in. People from 130 years old to 139-year-old, 3,936,000. Wow. I wonder if people are getting paid with all this. I mean, are these checks? And that's what we're checking right now. People
139 years old.
From 140 years old to 149 years old.
149 years old.
3,542,000. 140 years old and beyond. Now we're really going, because we're looking to break the record by 25 years. People from 150 years old to 159 years old. 1,345,000. These are in the, by the way, these are in the computer files. This is what they do well. They're super. I asked Elon, who are these Doge people? He said they're super brilliant computer people and they love the country. It's simple. Wait a minute. People from 160 years old to 169 years, 121,000. So 160-year-old people. 170 to 179,000, 6,087. But now, let's go into the real numbers. From 200 to 209 years old, 879 people. From 210 years old, I haven't met any of them. And
let's see. Hold on, let me read chat. The AI caught points. He kept streaming after he got banned, and he ramped up the slurs. Oh, really, guess? Oh. He was on Discord streaming, so Fraud was engaged in ban evasion. Trump presented this amazingly. He ruined his reputation because he joined that progressive Democrat pack. He's a child and wants to take others down with him. Wow. P. Murph! Boom! P. Murph resub for a tier 1. Thank you, P. Murph. Good to see you, man. This is absolutely a true story. It's so crazy what Doge is finding. It's insane, man. It's absolutely mind-blowing. It's incredible. And it also just exposes the fact that none of these Republicans over the last 30 years have done anything productive in DC. If Fraud points get banned for good, I'd be fine with that. We don't need that trash on Twitch. I mean, dude, I always thought he was like a fraudulent guy just because he pretended to be a conservative, and then when you get down to the nub of things, he was never a conservative, right? By the way, Less Than Entertainment, I don't know if I said hi to you. I see you in chat. I always knew, like, I always never liked him simply because, like, he pretended to be a conservative, and then, like, when it came down to the nub of issues, he's not conservative. He's not a conservative. He was he was left-leaning sort of thing. And so I hate people like that. I hate people that pretend to be conservatives, but then they'll attack you when you're for having conservative positions on all the controversial issues. It's like, screw you, dude. You're not a conservative. You don't get to be a conservative and then like gang up against me on like this hot button issues. Yeah, I just watched it. Very toxic. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Can you link it on my Discord or something? I'll watch it on. I'm gonna watch it on my phone. I'm gonna take a bathroom break here and watch it on my phone or something. We can listen to Trump while I take a quick break. It appears Fraud got banned on X as well. No. Counterpoint. I don't even know what his X thing is. That would be hilarious if he got banned on X. Even that. Was he? Oh, because he must have been. Was he streaming on X at the time? These guys had names like Connor, Dracula, Yoda, Methuselah, Wolverine. It's hilarious. Oh, Aircraft Sparky rebranding. Oh, Less Than Entertainment. I was like, oh, I've never seen that. Less Than Entertainment. You're Sparky? Oh, right on, man. Good to see you. I just saw your name in chat. I was like, oh, I've never seen that name. Then I was like, oh, I never welcomed him. I didn't realize you were Sparky. Cool, man. Doghouse was ranting about the plane crash in Canada, blaming Trump for it. Like, do you need a map? It was in Canada. It's unbelievable to me that these Democrats, I've heard this from multiple Democrats, like, Donald Trump takes office and then the next day a plane crashes and they honestly like think that that's Trump's fault. Oh, Trump's in control of the FAA. Look at that. Trump takes over and immediately pink. It's like, are you guys serious? Do Democrats think that's a good argument? It's like, wow.
And if I did, I would bless them. I would worship the ground they walk on. 210 to 219 years, 266. From 220 years old to 229 years old, 1,039. And then you have two people from 240 years old to 249 years old, one person. And there's one person that's 360 years old. That's just that. And then where's the money being spent, right? Let's go into that for just a second. $520 million for
Man, I kind of want to here, let me throw
Trump has said that he believes he has the power to end the war in Ukraine. He was speaking after talks were held today in Saudi Arabia, where Russian and American diplomats discussed ending Russia's 3-year campaign. More on those talks in a moment. But first, let's go straight to Washington and to our North America editor, Sarah Smith. Sarah, what more did the president say?
Well, he said he thinks he's the only person in the world who can end this war, as well as saying that he has the power to end it, and also repeating that if he had been in the White House 3 years ago, this war would never have begun. Now, he's said that before, but he's always implied that that was because Vladimir Putin would not have dared to invade Ukraine if Donald Trump had been the president of the United States. But speaking a few minutes ago from his Florida residence in Mar-a-Lago, he seemed to be blaming Ukraine for not having made a deal with Russia prior to the invasion. He seemed to be saying that if he had been in office, then he would have forced the deal that anybody, he said, could have negotiated a better deal where they would have given up a little bit of land, not too much, and been able to avoid this war. Have a listen to what he had to say.
I think I have the power to end this war, and I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down. But they chose not to do it that way.
Now, of course, when he was saying that Ukraine was complaining about not being invited, that was because they were not part of those talks that took place between America and Russia in Saudi Arabia today. Now, from the State Department, from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, we heard that those were not negotiations about how to end the war. They were simply initial talks between America and Russia, who will now put together top teams who will speak to each other about the parameters of how the war might end. And the Secretary of State was very clear. He said if they do get to the point of actually negotiating what a peace deal or a ceasefire might look like, at that point, Ukraine will be brought into the talks and some European nations will be consulted. But for now, those talks are very much between only the United States and Russia.
Thank you very much, Sarah Smith there in Washington. Well, there were extraordinary scenes in Saudi Arabia where Russian and American diplomats on opposite sides for so many years held 4 hours of talks aimed at ending the war in Ukraine. One of those at the table, the Russian foreign minister, is even under US sanctions for the part he's played in the war. The two countries agreed to press ahead with negotiations. The talks are part of a flurry of diplomacy focused on Ukraine this week. Crucially, as you heard, neither Ukraine nor Europe were invited to the talks with US and Russian officials, which took place in Riyadh this morning. Instead, the US envoy Keith Kellogg is being dispatched to meet Ukrainian officials separately in Kyiv. And while Russia and the US were talking, Ukraine's President Zelensky was in Turkey with President Erdogan. Yesterday, European leaders held an emergency summit in Paris to discuss Ukraine and European security, underlining the unease being felt about President Trump's plans to resolve the war. Our State Department correspondent Tom Bateman is traveling with the American delegation and has been covering the meeting.
Here, let me ask you guys this. Okay, for anybody that was watching the Connor points Rob debate thing, let me ask this. Was Rob actually attacking Connor for taking that liberal PAC money? Like was Rob actually going after Connor and like attacking him and saying like you're pathetic, like you're fake, like you're not authentic, like you took liberal PAC money, like blah 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 blah? Like, what did Rob do to like provoke that shit?
In Riyadh.
Rob mocked Connor. Of course he was, mocking him hard and winning. Yes, 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 and yes. Oh, dude. Wow. So it sounds like Connor like was literally like pushed to the edge of the cliff and was like getting pushed over the cliff and like literally grabbed onto Rob and like pulled him with. Wow. Oh my. When Fraud Points is in a corner, he reverts to racist, homophobic slurs and rants. I cannot believe that. That is absolutely mind-blowing to me. Like, wow. Just wow. Super Loco, what's up?
A consultant on the environment. It's called Environmental, Social, and Governance Investments in Africa and Mobilize Private Sector Resources, $520 million. Somebody got $520 million for an environmental, sounds like an environmental study. I've always been one that paid a lot of money for my environmental studies, but they, I paid like $50,000, not $520 million. $520 million for ESG. $25 million to promote biodiversity, conservation, and promote licit livelihoods by developing socially responsible behavior in the country of Colombia. Well, it's nice, $25 million to go into Colombia for something that nobody ever heard of. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. $40 million. $42 million for Johns Hopkins, great place, to research and drive social and behavior change in Uganda. $42 million. What about us? What about social change in our country? $70 million for a center at Purdue to research university-sourced, evidence-based solutions to developmental challenges. I mean, these are massive numbers on things that nobody ever heard about. $10 million for Mozambique voluntary medical male circumcisions. $10 million for circumcisions in another country. $9.7 million for UC Berkeley to develop a cohort of Cambodian youth with enterprise-driven skills. In other words, let's teach them something about enterprise. What about our people? Can we teach them about enterprise? $2.3 million for strengthening independent voices in Cambodia. $32 million to the Prague Civil Society Center, which is a very liberal group of people. Wonder how much of that money came back to the people that approved it. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $486 million to the Consortium for Elections and Political Process Strengthening, including $22 million for inclusive and participatory political process in Moldova, and $21 million for voter turnout in India. Well, why are we giving $21 million to...
Okay, it's kind of funny, like, when you bring up all of these things, because what the left will say is basically, okay, so basically any kind of spending you don't like, you just consider it waste. Or abuse. And it's like, that's hard. How do you come back from that? If Democrats were to say, okay, like, we understand, like, the president has the power to prevent waste, fraud, and abuse, but, like, this is spending, like, you just don't like this spending. Like, we actually don't think that this is waste to spend all this money. How do you come back from that? John Drives Car says, Rob usually always presentable, but when the other side keeps calling names and slurs, then Rob gives a little back. Am I the only one that doesn't know who Connor even is? Yes. I'm in the waiting room. If you want to discuss the Connor thing, Jason is my Discord handle. Oh, nice. I don't want to talk about, I don't want to less than entertainment right now. Honestly, like, I'm just going to, I frankly, I just want to watch this Trump press conference. And then there's the Caroline Leavitt was on. Rubio, Waltz, and Witkoff spoke, and then also Stephen Miller I want to get to. I really don't want to get derailed too much on this ConnerPoints thing, although it is quite entertaining to talk about. I have to admit that. Wow, guess. In the end, Connor pulls out that he served in the military. Wow. Nothing big, huge superhero supply guy. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Less than 3. Nothing wrong with that. You agree with that, though. But only if you're going to brag about it, it's a problem. I had that exact argument yesterday. My point was that it's simply beyond the scope of the federal government. It's not their duty to perform those random tasks. That's a great point, Altair. That's a great argument, counter argument. It's like, hold on. We're not just saying that this is wasteful spending, which we definitely think it is when we think this is waste and we think it's abuse, which we definitely think it is, and we'll go to the mat on that issue. But we actually think that this is unconstitutional. And I took an oath to uphold the Constitution, right? And the president raises his right hand and takes an oath to uphold the Constitution. How can the president send out payments like that knowing that these are unconstitutional payments? That's the argument too. Let the drama simmer. I always come back to that with, well, about homeless vets who can't even get help. Let's do that first of type thing. Oh, for sure, PM. Yeah, it's not your style anyways. Oh, I know, TLS. I'm not a drama streamer. Like I've never been a drama streamer. I've never been a drama streamer. I've always been on the outs on all the drama, frankly. I try to get in on the drama, like I try to debate Destiny and I stream with Rob and, try to generate drama and just doesn't work. I need to start trying to stream with female streamers or something. I don't know.
India, they got a lot of money. They're one of the highest taxing countries in the world in terms of us. We can hardly get in there because their tariffs are so high. I have a lot of respect for India. I have a lot of respect for the prime minister. He just left, as you know, 2 days ago. But we're giving $21 million for voter turnout. It's voter turnout in India. What about voter turnout here? Oh, we've done that, I guess. We did 500 million, didn't we? It's called the lockboxes. $20 million for fiscal federalism in Nepal. Listen to these numbers. This is all fraud. $19 million for biodiversity conservation.
This is all fraud. I don't know if you can say all of this is fraud. You can definitely say it's waste and abuse. And it's possible fraud involved in these. And I would say probably likely fraud involved in a lot of these.
In Nepal, $1.5 million for voter confidence. We want to give them confidence. In Liberia, $14 million for social...
Correct guess. Yep. We don't have free speech on Twitch, sadly. Never have, probably never will.
Cohesion in Mali.
Mali?
$2.5 million for...
Mali?
For inclusive democracies in South Africa. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well. They're doing a lot better than we do in the schools, aren't they? $2 million to develop sustainable recycling models to increase socioeconomic...
Trump, we're giving money to help educational outcomes in Asia, and they're literally beating us in educational outcomes? What the heck?
Cohesion among marginalized communities in Kosovo and Ashkali and in Egypt. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. I could, by the way, I could read this all day long. I could go on all day long, and you'll see hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're doing it. But when I saw the Social Security numbers, I said, wow, that's really something. So we have, let's just go above 100 years old. We have millions and millions of people over 100 years old. Everybody knows that's not so. We have a very corrupt country. very corrupt country, and it's a sad thing to say, but we're figuring it out. Now, the good thing about Social Security and what I read is if you take all of those numbers off, because they're obviously fraudulent or incompetent, but if you take all of those millions of people off Social Security, all of a sudden we have a very powerful Social Security with people that are 80 and 70 and 90, but not 200 years old. You know, so it's a very positive thing. How about over here? Yeah, please.
Your reaction to Michelle King, the head, resigning after the Doge?
Who resigned?
The head of Social Security.
I don't know. I mean, I resigned or got fired. I think got fired. You know, when you fire somebody, they always resign, and then they say, we resigned. But when you have numbers like that, I think really it's got fired. They have to get fired. Who would keep them? How could you have numbers like this? Now, the big thing is, how many of these people got paid? Were they getting paid? Were they getting paid? How many of them were getting paid Social Security? Because if that's the case, it's a massive fraud. We'll have to call those great Palm Beach police.
Okay,
And, you know, it's a very sad situation. Yeah, please. Social change in our country. $70 million for a center at Purdue to research university-sourced, evidence-based solutions to...
Where's the rest of this? Like, that was some Al Jazeera thing. Oh, was it alive?
Hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're doing it. But when I saw the Social Security numbers, I said, wow, that's really something. So we have, let's just go above 100 years old. We have
federal workers who were fired over the weekend. Some of these workers
resigned or got fired. I think got fired. You know, when you fire somebody, they always...
Oh, there's only like 5 minutes left. Okay.
Resign, and then they say, we resigned. But when you have numbers like that, I think really it's got fired. They have to get fired. Who would keep them? How could you have numbers like this? Now, the big thing is, how many of these people got paid? Were they getting paid? Were they getting paid? How many of them were getting paid Social Security? Because if that's the case, it's a massive fraud. We'll have to call those great Palm Beach police into this situation, right? You guys would figure that out very quickly. But how many of them are being paid? I mean, maybe millions of them, but it's a total fraud. Also, a lot of illegal immigrants are in Social Security that shouldn't be there. Yeah, please, go ahead.
President, there was a big wave of probationary federal workers who were fired over the weekend. Some of these workers focused on nuclear weapon security were immediately rehired. Do you have any concerns about how these terminations have
No, not at all. I think we have to just do what we have to do. It's, you know, you're going to, it's amazing what's been found right now. It's amazing. If we feel that in some cases they'll fire people and then they'll put some people back, not all of them, because a lot of people were let go. Don't forget, I got elected on the basis of making our government stronger and smaller, because we have millions of people that obviously they're paying millions of people that shouldn't be paid.
What's so interesting is Trump, Trump, you didn't. No, Trump, you didn't get elected on making the government smaller. He really didn't. You know, that's what's so awesome about this. Like, he's governing and doing things that like are wonderful, positive things, like shrinking the government and firing federal workers. But he didn't run on that. That was not his campaign. Let's be honest about that.
And that has also to do with workers. Yeah, please. No, go ahead. Actually, yes, New York Times.
Sorry. Mr. President, given your concerns about corruption.
What's your take on tariffs of raw materials? I'm good with it. Go Gaines. I support it.
You said,
I think, like, for national security reasons, we should have enough tariffs at least to keep our like steel industries alive and things like that. I'm fine with that. The U.S. government has more employees compared to the largest private sector job, Walmart, by 1 million more. Unbelievable. Yeah, very few times did he mention government downsides. I watched almost every single rally. Right, PM, right. Probably that is why Trump and Musk were talking with Milei. Oh, for sure, dude. Oh, Milei's done a fantastic job. Milei's done a wonderful job. And you know what I think? Here's the thing. The reality is I will say that Trump sort of ran on, you know, making our country rich again, and balancing the budget and making better deals and tariffs and things like that, which all sort of arguably, like, you could say is like a more efficient government was part of that, and things like that. You can sort of get there, kind of, but like we're going to shrink the size of the government, we're going to fire a bunch of workers, blah, blah. Like, that was not ever really, like, that was Vivek's campaign, which is actually awesome, because what you're seeing is actually kind of more Vivek style in terms. Vivek wanted to like fire like 70% of all the workers, which would be awesome. I would love to do that. I would love for Trump to be able to fire even more federal workers.
That if there were any conflicts of interest with Elon Musk, you wouldn't let him anywhere near it.
That's right.
Doge and SpaceX employees are now working directly at the Federal Aviation Administration and the Defense.
America #1, less than 3. I am a civil servant. Nice. Good for you, man. I support firing tons of the civil service. Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, less than 3 is like the unfortunate reality is that it's what's best for the country. It's like, I think that there's lots of good people that work for the federal government. There's no question. Lots of good people work for the federal government. And actually, we do need some workers in the federal government for some jobs. It's very important, et cetera, et cetera. But the problem is like, there's just too many. It's gotten too big. There's too many agencies. There's way too many people. It's like, it's just for the best for the country. Like, and it's sad for individuals. It's unfortunate for the individual people that have to get fired and stuff. I feel bad for them, but it has to be done for the best for the country. It's in the good of the country. We have to downsize the size of this workforce.
Department, agencies that have billions of dollars in contracts with Musk's companies or that directly regulate his companies. How is that not a conflict of interest?
Well, I mean, I'm just hearing.
Exactly. How else can you drain the swamp? Yep. Thank you, guys. Wait till Doge goes to the post office. Oh, can't imagine, guess. Yeah. Civil service run on the 80-20 method. 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. Oh, I believe that. Yep. Tylenol. What's up, Tylenol? Rando question. Would we really see progress after fiscal year is over? Lecture fan, also evening to you in chat. Yeah, you will see progress, Tylenol, because, and I don't know how this works. This is incredibly complicated. Like, the federal government's finances and budgeting and everything is beyond complicated and complex. But you obviously, because you have two different things going on. One is like Congress and what Congress has appropriated, aka what Congress has spent. That's one piece. And then the second piece is like, okay, now you actually have the executive branch actually taking that money and putting it into practice. And so you may not see anything change in terms of what Congress has passed or what Congress is doing until the president reports back to Congress and says, oh, hey, by the way, we have way more money than we thought we did. And so here's the real numbers. And then Congress goes, oh, wow, we had appropriated and spent all this money. How do you have so much money now? And the president goes to Congress and says, well, we have so much extra money because I fired all the workers. And so we didn't have to pay them as many salaries. And Congress goes, oh, awesome, cool. We don't have a budget deficit anymore. Now we can actually spend money on important things. You know, that's kind of how it would work.
About it. And if there is, and he told me before I told him, but obviously I will not let there be any conflict of interest. He's done an amazing job. They've revealed, in fact, he's going to be on tonight, a big show called Sean Hannity at 9 o'clock. And
right, guess.
And I'm on, and we're talking.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it's like, Trump is like trying to fire like a couple 100,000 federal employees to like save a little money here and there. And, you know, Doge is fighting 10 million here and 10 million there to cut. And it's like, meanwhile, like this multi-trillion-dollar operation is going completely bankrupt in 25 days. What a joke.
About a lot of different things. And any conflicts, I told Elon, any conflicts, you can't have anything to do with that. So anything to do with possibly even space, we won't let Elon partake in that. Yeah, please.
On immigration, sir, you said you would be sending the worst of the worst to Guantanamo Bay. What we're finding out is that there are a lot of low-risk migrants who don't have a criminal background who are also being sent. Are you thinking about this differently now?
No, they're going to be brought back to their countries. And with some persuasion, every one of those countries, everyone in the, as you know, every country is taking the people back.
Whoa, hold on. What's this in chat? What's this long chat? We still have trillions in unspent COVID funds sitting in many state bank accounts. Oh, yeah, guess. Absolutely. Insane. Guess there was a huge story here in Montana about how the governor has like $80 million just in an interest on COVID funds. It's ridiculous. What do people do with money anyway? Count it. 1927 ethos. The main thing you do with money is you count it. Full disclosure, I'm a liberal, but I enjoy watching you because I actually agree with most of what you say. Wow, Estro, that's cool. Plus, I like expanding my media consumption to better understand different points of view. That's why I sometimes ask questions about specific talking points. I want to learn more about your perspective on topics that I don't understand, like the 25% Canada-Mexico blanket tariffs. Right on. That's very cool, Estro. Right on. Did they never read the Bible? A lot of people know. The NASA SLS contract is $200 million, which Trump said is done in 30 days. Oh, is that the Boeing contract, the space contract, or no? What's that? Is that I should know that off the top of my head. Hannity just called Trump and Elon two brothers. That's awesome. PM, you got freaking cable, man. Good for you. Yeah, Boeing. Okay, that's what I thought, guess. I thought, yeah, that's like the Boeing contract to get to the space station and back or whatever. Wow.
So
boy, did they F that up, huh?
Of them are going to be brought back to, many of them, any of them that are low risk.
I think I knew that, S-Rule. I think I knew that already, S-Rule. So you were good even if you didn't say that. I kind of knew that already. Right, Flyer, what's up?
Risk, as you say, are going to be brought back to their countries. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Can you give us a bit of an update on where you stand with Venezuela?
Yeah,
it's oil. There's basically a monthly license that can soon extend.
Well, you know, we had Venezuela on the run, and it looked like that was going to be very good. And when Biden came in, as he always does, he screws it up.
Oh, thank you, Right Flyer. Thank you.
Millions and millions of dollars of oil, billions of dollars actually, of oil, and it gave them a new lease, a new really lease on life. But we'll see. We had some pretty good discussions with a lot of people within our government, in the United States government, that are involved in that. And Venezuela's a little bit early, but you know, we were not buying from Venezuela when Biden came in for whatever reason. Instead of just taking the beautiful, as I call it, liquid gold, we have more than anybody. They started paying a fortune to Venezuela, and we're looking at that actually. Why did they do that? Why were they doing that? Why would they go to the enemy and give them billions and billions of dollars? Now, with that being said, as you know, Venezuela has said very strongly they will not take any illegal immigrant, any of the people that they sent over to us. They sent their gangs, probably the worst gang anywhere in the world, as bad as MS-13, maybe worse. And they came out of the jails of Venezuela. They emptied their jails into our country. And they said, we'll never take them back. Well, they took them back, and they're taking them back. And they are taking them back rapidly.
Boom!
They were sending a lot of people to Venezuela. They said they wouldn't take them back, and they're taking back. But we're looking at Venezuela.
Fantastic.
Seriously, and we're going to be able to, don't forget, I've only been here for 3 weeks. Yeah, please.
Just a little clarity on, are you inclined to continue to allow Venezuela, through I think Chevron and other oil companies, to export those petroleum products, or are you
maybe not
to pull back?
Yeah, maybe not. We're looking at that now. I just got here. When I left, they weren't doing anything. They were ready to go. We give up. And then Biden came along and he gave them literally billions of dollars. I couldn't believe it, actually. And we have so much under our feet, liquid gold. We have so much, and it was pretty amazing. So we're looking at that whole situation, why he did it. All right, how about one more? Yeah, please.
What can you tell us about the CIA drone flights over Mexico? Is this the next step in the war against the cartels?
Well, we're going to see.
Should they have authority to take lethal action?
Mexico's allowed a tremendous number of people to go through their country into ours, and even people coming from Mexico, and illegals, totally illegal. They've allowed people to empty jails into Mexico and then let them come through with this totally ridiculous open border policy of the Biden administration. So millions of people have come in, and hundreds of thousands, and actually millions, are criminals. They came in from jails all over the world that release them into Mexico, and they come into our country. And they also came in from Canada, by the way, large numbers through Canada. In fact, when we closed up the one border, they came in through the other border. So Canada is not an uninterested party. But I will say this, we're dealing with Mexico. I have a very good relationship with Mexico, but I think Mexico is largely run by the cartels, and that's a sad thing to say. And if they wanted help with that, we'd give them help.
Dude, I'm going in on Palantir, Num. Dude, I still can't believe that, man, that this has gone from hanging out around like $3 or $4 to now being at like almost $30, plus 500% in the past year. Man, you think it's gonna? You think it's got room to run? Dude, PLTR has gone insane. It's like, do you think so? You think there's room to run with this? It's kind of hanging around an all-time high, just under an all-time high right now. Oh yeah, gold is going insane. Everything is sort of nuts right now.
Oh, but Mexico, if you look at what's gone on with Mexico for years now, but now especially, it's run by the cartels, and they've allowed millions of people to come into our country from jails and prisons of other countries from all over the world, not just South America, Africa, Asia, all over, a lot from the Congo.
If Rocket Lab, maybe, Num, keep me posted if you don't mind. Like when those earnings come out, if Rocket Lab like goes way down, like drops 10% or something, or drops even 5%, maybe I'll throw some investments in it. Maybe I'll sell some Palantir and buy some Rocket Lab or something.
Congo in Africa, a lot. They opened it.
Nice, Right Flyer. Wait, so Right Flyer, so you're all up on the space stuff, huh? Right Flyer, like, did you follow me like back when I was playing Kerbal Space Program or something, or what, Right Flyer? Are you like an old Kerbal Space Program viewer? You seem like you might be an old Kerbal Space Program viewer.
Their jails, they came in through Mexico, and we have some of the worst criminals coming in from the Congo and other places. So it's not just South America, and it's not just Venezuela, but they opened their jails. And you know, the crime rates in Venezuela and other places all over the world has gone way down. You know why? Because they've given us their prisoners, they've given us their drug lords and their gang members, and it's hard to believe that we accepted this. It's hard to believe that we allowed open borders, and we're taking in, you know, hundreds of thousands and millions of people coming in from all over the world that are absolute stone-cold criminals. In fact, 11,088 murderers, and many of those people have murdered more than one person. Why are they giving us these people, and why are we taking these people under Biden? You know, you had a border czar that never went to the border. Happened to be a vice president, never went to the border, never called.
Oh my word. Look at the CNN coverage of Donald Trump. Wolf Blitzer. Trump falsely blames Ukraine for starting war with Russia.
Dude, we gotta see this.
Tonight, President Trump parroting Russian propaganda.
Tonight, President Trump parroting Russian propaganda. Oh, man. It doesn't get any better, does it?
Tonight, President Trump parroting Russian propaganda as he falsely accuses Ukraine of starting the war, which began almost 3 years ago when Vladimir Putin's troops invaded Ukraine.
Oh, nice, Num.
Our chief
Good, Num.
national affairs correspondent, Jeff Zeleny. He's traveling with the president in Florida. So, Jeff, what exactly did President Trump say?
Well, if it was some of the sharpest criticism we have heard directed from the Trump administration, or in fact, any American president at the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, of course, this is coming on a day when the U.S. and Russia were meeting to talk about the very fate of Ukraine.
Oh, yeah, it's all Russia, Russia, Russia again. Now this is going to be Russia 2.0. This is Russia hoax 2.0. Donald Trump pushing Russian propaganda on Ukraine. Oh, my goodness.
Ukraine, Zelensky did not have a seat at the table. But the president was asked specifically about that just a short time ago at his Mar-a-Lago resort. He fired back at Zelensky, suggesting that he could have stopped the war 3 years ago.
I think I have the power to end this war, and I think it's going very well. But today I heard, oh, well, we weren't invited. Well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
You could have made a deal. You should have never started, of course. Well, that is not just a misstatement of history, of course. Russia invaded Ukraine, as we all saw and witnessed 3 years ago, nearly to this date. But Russia also has the history of Ukraine. I mean, when during the first Trump administration, their incursion was spreading and growing. But the American president did not stop there. He went on to essentially belittle and question the authority of the Ukrainian president. He said his approval rating was at 4%. There is no evidence to back that up. The latest poll from a couple months or so ago was right around 50%. Never mind that, he also questioned his leadership and said that there should be new elections. Now, of course, there have not been elections in Ukraine because martial law was called because of the Russia invasion. But we've taken all together here as this is coming as peace talks are just dramatically intensifying between the U.S. and Russia, as we saw in Saudi Arabia. There's no question that you odd man out here, and Trump was very eager to fire back at Zelensky and certainly not defend him today, Wolf.
Truly outrageous comments. Jeff Zeleny, thank you very much.
Truly outrageous comments. Jeff Zeleny, thank you so much. Wolf Blitzer is such a hack. How is this guy still on TV?
Much. All of this comes as U.S. and Russian diplomats kickstarted their talks in Saudi Arabia aimed at trying to bring the war to an end without Ukrainian negotiators in the room. Our chief national security correspondent, Alex Marquardt, is joining us now from the Saudi capital of Riyadh. Alex, how is this comment, this latest comment from President Trump, going to be received?
Well, Wolf, this will strike at the deepest fears that the Ukrainians have of how President Trump views the conflict and who is responsible, and concerns over concessions to the Russians. The president here laying blame at the feet of the Ukrainians. You know, he's going beyond the usual anti-Ukrainian talking points of the fact that this war has been dragging on for 3 years and cost the U.S. tens of billions of dollars, going beyond the Russian talking points that in fact, it was Ukraine who provoked this war by getting too close to NATO, too close to the EU, moving away from Russia, saying here very clearly that this was Ukraine's fault and that Ukraine started it. And Jeff Zeleny is absolutely right. We know that that is not true. We know that it was Russia who launched.
Oh, my goodness, dude. It's just the same thing. Well, Trump said this. Fact check false. The next day. Well, Trump said that. Trump fact check false. Third day. Well, Trump said this, and it was false. It's like, dude, you guys are boring.
We're joined down by the U.S. delegation that just wrapped up their meetings with the Russians. Are you walking away with this with any agreements for any follow-up conversations?
Well, I would start by saying we've agreed on 4 principles that I think are important. The first is that we're going to appoint our teams respectively to work very quickly to reestablish the functionality of our respective missions in Washington and in Moscow. For us to be able to continue to move down this road, we need to have diplomatic facilities that are operating and functioning normally. The second point is that we're going to appoint a high-level team from our end to help negotiate and work through the end of the conflict in Ukraine in a way that's enduring and acceptable to all the parties engaged. The third point is to begin to work at a high level as well to begin to discuss and think about and examine both the geopolitical and economic cooperation that could result from an end to the conflict in Ukraine. Obviously, we'd have to see that conflict come to a successful and enduring end in order for that to be possible. And the last thing we agreed to is that while our teams are going to be working on all of this, the four of us who were here today, the five of us that were here today, are going to remain engaged in this process to make sure that it's moving along in a productive way.
What does an enduring and successful end look like? Did you present any proposals to the Russians today?
Well, there are some underlying principles. This needs to be a permanent end to the war and not a temporary end as we've seen in the past. We know just the practical reality is that there is going to be some discussion of territory and there's going to be discussion of security guarantees. Those are just fundamental basics that will undergird and underlie any type of discussion. But I think the most important part is the president has stated his desire, his determination to end this war, to end the killing that is going on, the death and destruction that is happening as this war goes on and on, month after month after month, and the killing fields of eastern and southern Ukraine is unacceptable. It is not in the interest of either country. It's not in the interest of the world, and certainly not in the interest of the United States.
Crazy.
So all of those things will drive the negotiations going forward. And as you can see, President Trump is determined to move very quickly. We just had a head of state phone call, the first in years, and here we are less than a week later at the highest level of the U.S. and Russian government, and we expect to continue to drive that pace to not only end the war, but then to unlock what could be very productive and stabilizing relationships going forward.
You mentioned territory. Is it acceptable to the U.S. for Russia to retain any territory that it annexed since the beginning of the war in February 2022?
Well, I think those are things that those are to be discussed. And those are things that will start and do the tough work ahead. But the important thing is that we've started that process. And what the president did not find acceptable was an endless war in Europe that was literally has turned into a meat grinder of people on both sides. So if you just think about just in a few months, President Trump has shifted the entire global conversation from not if the war is going to end, but just how it's going to end. And only President Trump can do that. And in the Oval Office less than a week ago, both President Putin and President Zelensky both said to him, only you, President Trump, could drive this war to a conclusion.
What concessions do you expect?
Well, again, we're not going to pre-negotiate an end to this conflict. These are the kinds of things that have to happen through hard and difficult diplomacy in closed rooms over a period of time. What's important to understand is two things. The first is the only leader in the world who can make this happen, who can even bring people together to begin to talk about it in a serious way, is President Trump. He's the only one in the world that can do that right now. The second thing I would say is that in order for a conflict to end, everyone involved in that conflict has to be okay with it. It has to be acceptable to them. But we have to understand that it's been 3.5 years since there's been any sort of regularized contact between the United States and Russia, and in some cases between any of the participants in this conflict and Russia. So the goal of today's meeting was to follow up on the phone call the president had a week ago and begin to establish those lines of
I hate undergird, buzzspeak. Oh, I know.
Communication. The work remains. Today is the first step of a long and difficult journey, but an important one. And President Trump is committed to bringing an end to this conflict. And as he said when he campaigned for president, and he wants it to end in a way that's fair. He wants it to end in a way that's sustainable.
Okay, Esrael, here's the real take on Donald Trump saying that, okay? Here's what's really going on, Esrael. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. And there's a lot of negotiations going on. And there's a good cop, bad cop routine. And the way I interpret it, here's the honest truth, Esrael, here's the honest truth. The way I interpret that, Donald Trump acting like that and speaking like that, is that Donald Trump has Russia at the table ready to make a deal. he's having problems with Ukraine, getting Ukraine and Europe to agree to the terms. And so Donald Trump is out there playing bad cop towards Ukraine and Europe to try to get them to make this deal because he's the master of the art of the deal. Because of and that's the right thing to do because of what's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about.
Sustainable and enduring, not that leads to another conflict in 2 to 3 years. That's not going to be easy to achieve, but he's the only one in the world that can begin that process. Donald Trump is the only leader in the world that could initiate that process.
I rewatched the interview. I think he was using the royal you, talking to both of them. Talking to Putin and Zelensky, Num? You're saying Trump was talking to Putin and Zelensky?
And today was the first step.
I could see that. I could totally see that. I mean, Donald Trump has been pretty tough on Ukraine, though, aside from that one comment. Makes sense, especially that we don't know about what's going on. Right, S-Rule. We don't really know what's going on behind the scenes or what positions people are taking or what proposals are being made or any of that stuff. But like Donald Trump has been tougher on Ukraine, and I think it's because of the way that this deal negotiation is going up behind the scenes, is that Russia wants to make a deal and is kind of desperate to make a deal and call a ceasefire with the lines where they're at now, and he's having a hard time getting Ukraine and Europe to agree to that.
Step in that process.
Is sanctions relief going to be involved in any of this normalizing or trying to more level set the relationship between the U.S. and Russia? Did the Russians bring up sanctions relief in the meeting today?
Well, sanctions are all the result of this conflict. There are sanctions that were imposed as a result of this conflict. And so I would say to you that in order to bring an end to any conflict, there has to be concessions made by all sides. We're not going to predetermine what those are. We're certainly not going to negotiate this today or in a press conference for that matter. But and there are other parties that have sanctions. The European Union is going to have to be at the table at some point because they have sanctions as well that have been imposed. So, but I guess the point here is the goal is, and we agreed on what the goal is to bring an end to this conflict in a way that's fair, enduring, sustainable, and acceptable to all parties involved. What that looks like, well, that's what the ongoing engagement is going to be all about.
The Ukrainians and the Europeans have suggested they feel very sidelined about how the process has played out so far. How do you intend to address their concerns, and will they be incorporated in future meetings in a multilateral way?
Well, the comment I would have on that is that for 3.5 years while this conflict has raged, or 3 years while it's raged, no one else has been able to bring something together like what we saw today, because Donald Trump is the only leader in the world that can. So no one is being sidelined here, but President Trump is in a position that he can.
He also talked about how he told Putin not to go into Ukraine in the same interview. So I think it's you, like you guys. Oh, for sure. For sure, Num. I think Donald Trump does blame both sides. Donald Trump blames like America and Ukraine and Europe for basically trying to take total control of Ukraine and trying to put Ukraine into NATO and everything else. And he blames Russia for going into Ukraine when Russia probably could have, I don't know, maybe he really doesn't blame Russia, because you go down that line of thought, it's like, yeah, it does justify the invasion on part of Russia.
Campaigned on to initiate a process that could bring about an end to this conflict. And from that could emerge some very positive things for the United States, for Europe, for Ukraine, for the world. But first it begins by the end of this conflict. And so the only thing President Trump's trying to do is bring about peace. It's what he campaigned on. It's something the world should be thanking President Trump for doing. He's been able to achieve what for 2.5, 3 years, no one else has been able to achieve, which is to begin this process, a serious process. Obviously, a lot of work remains before we have a result, but President Trump's the only one that can do it.
Look, it's common sense. If you're going to bring both sides together, you have to talk to both sides. And we'll continue to remind everyone, literally within minutes of President Trump hanging up with President Putin, he called and spoke with President Zelensky. So shuttle diplomacy has happened throughout history. It's happened all over the world. We are absolutely talking to both sides. The Secretary of State just met with President Zelensky days ago, along with the Vice President, 7 cabinet members in Europe at the same time, really showing the importance of engaging our allies. President Trump spoke with President Macron just yesterday. Prime Minister Starmer is coming to Washington next week. So I think the facts will continue to push back on this notion that our allies haven't been consulted. They are being consulted literally almost on a daily basis, and will continue to do so.
Did you set a date for the 2 presidents to meet at this meeting? When can we expect that meeting?
We did not. We did not set that date, but the 2 presidents talked about meeting and expect to meet.
Can you take us a little bit in the room today? What was the interaction like? How would you characterize the discussions?
It was positive, upbeat, constructive. Everybody there to get to the right outcome, solution-based. We discussed it afterwards. We couldn't have imagined a better result after this session. It was very, very solid.
Will you be traveling to Russia again, Mr. Witkoff?
I'm not sure, but we'll make that determination in the next couple of weeks.
The Europeans, Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, has said the U.S. needs to back any sort of European solution to the war. Is this something that you are willing to commit to?
Well, I think that's something that we'll continue to discuss. We have certainly, again, as a first principle, a European-led security guarantee. We have the president, many of us, as members of prior members of Congress ourselves, have called for the
Rubio.
Europeans to continue.
Yeah, these are all good answers, I think, Esrel.
To continue to share the burden of NATO defense.
You can really tell though. That like Steve Witkoff is not as good at this. Like Mike Waltz is okay at it, and Marco Rubio's a master. Marco Rubio, and you can also tell like Marco Rubio's at Secretary of State at the very top because he's like a master politician, right? And these 2 guys are there because substantively, like on the merits, they're experts in their subject area, you know, but they're not as good at Rubio at being a politician. Did you see the Politico article yesterday? I did not. Which one, Prola? Which one? No.
Will continue to point out that while things have improved, starting with President Trump's first term, the fact that 1/3 of our NATO allies still do not contribute the minimum of 2%.
It's got to be still one of their top. If it went viral, it's still got to be one of their top popular things on their website. Do they even have like a top most popular? There's so many articles on here. Trump signs order to claim power over independent agencies. The Marco Rubio Guide to Survival is not working well. The Secretary of State is taking positions that were once anathema and sounding very Trumpy online. It's becoming increasingly clear that Marco Rubio is Secretary of State in name only. Since taking over Foggy Bottom, Rubio has constantly appeared 1 or 2 steps behind the actions of Trump and Elon Musk, popping up to explain, justify, or double down on choices he probably would not make if he was actually running the show. He's talking and posting online in a different voice, contradicting earlier policy views, and appears to have little control over the implementation of Trump's assault on the federal workforce. Dude, of course he doesn't. He's a foreign policy guy. They worry that Rubio doesn't have the president's ear and no sway over Musk. Why would he have sway over Musk? He's foreign policy. Musk is working on Doge. The simple story is that Rubio is not in charge. Who's the real Secretary of State then? Elon Musk, Murphy said. Oh my God, like, dude, there's the element of truth to this. The only element of truth to this story is that the MAGA base never liked Rubio. But that's been true since long before he was appointed Secretary of State by Donald Trump. That's the most ridiculous premise article. Elon Musk is the Secretary of State running foreign policy. Yeah, that's horrible. Marco Rubio is like one of the most like sincere, like earnest, like politicians there is. Free Rob Noor. Amen, guess. Amen.
Of their GDP to defense a decade.
Rob Noor should hire me to do his Twitch appeal, guess. Somebody needs to tell Rob Noor that I'll handle that. I'll do Rob's Twitch appeal pro bono. I'm an expert at Twitch appeals. I can draft his brief, his Twitch appellate brief if he wants, pro bono if he wants.
Decade after that we all collectively made that agreement isn't acceptable. We have the NATO summit coming up this June, and we would expect with the type of conflict, the type of warfare and destruction.
Exactly. I'm 100% on Twitch appeals. I'm 100% on Twitch appeals. I could absolutely draft like a 1 paragraph summary of why Rob's thing should be reversed. I would absolutely need to, obviously, I would need to spend some time talking to my client, Rob, privately, confidentially. I would need to review the video myself. I would need to understand the full context, the full backstory, and then I would be able to advise Rob on how best to phrase and characterize his appeal.
Destruction we've seen in Europe, sadly, the last several years, that we have 100% at the minimum, and in fact are exceeding that. So, look, this is a common effort. This isn't just about what the United States is going to continue to contribute and what we are going to continue.
$1,000 an hour, Num.
Taxpayer.
$1,000 an hour, Num. That's the going rate. Yeah, $20,000 retainer. That'll be 20. That'll get me halfway through the week. 20 hours. $1,000 an hour.
We all have to make those tough decisions. We all have to contribute to our common defense, and we expect that this to be a two-way street for our European allies. And the fact that both the United Kingdom, France, and others are talking about contributing more forcefully to Ukraine's security, we think is a good thing.
Did you walk away from this meeting convinced the Russians want peace? You said it might take some time to be convinced of that. How are you seeing it now?
I mean, I don't view diplomacy that way. I think diplomacy ultimately is based on...
Oh, for sure. Yes, guys.
Commitments that are kept. So I think I came away...
Oh, I know, Esrel. I know, right?
Willing to begin to engage in a serious process to determine how quickly and through what mechanism can an end be brought to this war. Whether we can ultimately reach that outcome will obviously depend on every side in this conflict's willingness to agree to certain things. So I think it's important to have this meeting because we haven't really had much engagement with the Russians for almost 3 years. And it sets the table for future conversations. How that turns out will be up to the parties and their willingness not just to make commitments, but to live by them. That'll be tested in the weeks to come. But I can tell you again, as I reiterate, President Trump has made it very clear during the campaign he thought this conflict needed to end. He's the only leader in the world that could have started a process that we saw here today, and this process is going to continue. And when you talk about an enduring and sustainable end of the conflict, it means one that's acceptable to everyone involved in it. And that obviously includes Ukraine, but also our partners in Europe, and of course the Russian side as well.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there, but I just wanted to also take a moment, I think on behalf of all of us and the president, to thank our partners in Saudi Arabia, to thank our hosts for bringing this together, and particularly the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and his team. We are moving quickly, which means they moved very quickly to be such gracious hosts, and we certainly are all appreciative.
Absolutely. A last question. Will the Saudis take on the more...
I will say that for some reason, Marco Rubio doesn't seem happy. I will say that. I will say that it does appear that Marco Rubio is not super happy, and I'm not sure why.
Active mediation role as these talks.
Yeah, my wife must have ran to the gas station or something. I don't know.
Well, that's a decision for the kingdom to make, but I can tell you that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is playing an indispensable role in making today possible. Not just hosting us, but bringing the parties together to have these conversations. I think it's something we're very grateful for. Something we're very grateful for the partnership that we have with them on a host of issues, and this being one of them. Where we thank them for doing it, and we hope that they will. I think they've offered, and I believe that they will continue to be helpful in any way they can.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Can I just, I'll be extremely brief. So what is the next step now? The high-level team you mentioned is number 2 or number 3.
Yeah, so let me walk you through the next step is multi-track. The first next step is working through our respective teams at the diplomatic side, just to ensure that our diplomatic missions can function. There's been a series of reciprocal actions taken over the last 10 years that have really diminished our ability to operate in Moscow, as an example, and they would argue their ability to operate in Washington. We're going to need to have vibrant diplomatic missions that are able to function normally in order to be able to continue these conduits. The second is a high-level team, including those who are experts on these topics, the technical side, to begin to engage with their side on parameters of what an end to this conflict would look like. And on that front, obviously, there's going to be engagement and consultation with Ukraine, with our partners in Europe and others. But ultimately, the Russian side will be indispensable to this effort, and so that process will begin. And then the third is, together with those other two, is beginning to engage in identifying the extraordinary opportunities that exist should this conflict come to a acceptable end, the credible opportunities that exist to partner with the Russians geopolitically on issues of common interest, and frankly, economically, on issues that hopefully will be good for the world and will also improve our relations in the long term between these two important countries. So all three of those efforts will be happening in conjunction with one another. Obviously, the diplomatic one is one we think we hope to move pretty quickly on, because this involves the treatment of our respective missions. The second one will be difficult, which is
So the other theory I've heard, guys, on this, is that the reason the Trump administration is moving like this on Ukraine and trying to make this deal with Russia and talking about these hopes and dreams to partner with Russia and all this stuff is not just because, you know, Trump loves Putin or Trump loves Russia. No, but it's to try to take Russia away from China. It's to try to separate any kind of diplomatic closeness between Russia and China. It's like, I don't know on that one. I wish that was I hope that's true. I wish that's true, but I don't necessarily think it is. Be like, that would be cool if that's what's going on here, but I don't necessarily think that is. What do you guys think? In 2024, Rubio said the only way out is a negotiated settlement. Wow, that makes sense. That does appear to be the reality, doesn't it? There does not appear to be a realistic opportunity for military victory by either side. We can't make deals with Russia. We need a 100% embargo Russia and act as if Russia doesn't exist. I'm actually pretty sympathetic to that view, American Patriot. You know that. I'm actually kind of a Russia hawk. I actually kind of disagree with this. That's why it's like American Patriot. That's why I'm thinking of like, what are these alternative, like, bigger picture goals here that the Trump administration has in mind that I'm missing here? Because just on straight normal situation, yeah, like I wouldn't support partnering with Russia.
Question of Ukraine and the end of that conflict, but I think that's essential in order for the third piece to even be possible, which is our ability to...
What, Eric? Which one's a good argument? Eric Smith, which one do you think is a good argument? There was a whole bunch of them just made.
Work together on other geopolitical matters of common interest, and of course, some pretty unique, potentially historic economic partnerships as well. The key that unlocks
True super loco. True super loco.
is the end to this conflict.
But Brett, in terms of like when does the high level team meet? Has there been any date?
There's no date set, but as President Trump is, as you've seen over the last 4 weeks, not patient in terms of getting action. He drives hard. He wants to get things done. He's been wanting to do this, and he's moving very quickly to fulfill the promises.
That's awesome, American Patriot. I love that. Good.
And then in terms of number one, the restoration of
Oh, okay. Yeah, Eric, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
The first big tit of the tit for tats was after the Skripal poisoning. And the U.S., under one of your predecessors, Mr. Tillerson, expelled a lot of Russian diplomats, to which they responded. The consulate in St. Petersburg got closed down by the Russians. You guys closed down the consulate in Seattle, and several others. Are those going to reopen?
Well, that's what we're going to be talking about. And but ultimately, again, I'm not going to negotiate or just work on that in public. That's what these channels will be about. But ultimately, what the goal we need to have is we have to have some normalcy in our missions and in their ability to function.
And in the main embassies, even.
And in the main embassies,
just the main embassies, regardless of the consulates.
I mean, if our diplomatic channels are broken, it's going to be very difficult to consistently engage on a host of topics, including some unrelated irritants that could derail the broader talks on Ukraine. So there has to be some improvement in the way our missions are able to work and in the environment and space that they're given to operate in. So that's something we want to move on quickly, and it's important to set the table for the other two things that we want to do. But I think the key really in all of this is ultimately going to be whether an agreement can be reached with all parties involved.
Well, Guess, it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Guess the Korea solution is not ideal, but it also has basically prevented war for 70 years. It's, it's like, man, I think Trump just wants a ceasefire ASAP to stop the killing and then just freeze everything. And it's like, dude, I think honestly, and Trump kind of says this, he's like, I don't care about anything else. Just stop the killing. I just want the killing to stop. Trump really doesn't care about anything else. If it involves freezing the borders where they are, if it involves giving Russia a little bit more land or not, or taking some land from Russia, like Trump doesn't care. Just stop the killing.
On an acceptable resolution to the conflict in Ukraine, because if that happens, not only will.
Whereas for a lot of us out here, there's bigger issues in mind. It's like, well, if you don't view this war in the bigger picture and the bigger grand scheme of history, it's like you may be able to get a ceasefire and basically stop the killing right now, but that could result in like all of Western civilization and billions of people dying later on or being subject to communist rule. So it's like, you got to talk about, now I'm not saying that that's what's likely to come here, but you got to also take into account, not just be super short-sighted and not only consider, I just want to stop the killing. It's like, well, you might stop the killing today, but if that results in even more killing later, then it's not a good idea, right? Like, it's not that complicated. Right. Oh, for sure, Num. No, Putin is desperate, Num. Putin is desperate for a negotiated settlement. His economy is in shambles. His military is in shambles. Like he's desperate. I think that's why I think Russia and Putin are ready to make a deal. That's why Donald Trump is out there hammering on Ukraine and hammering Zelensky and hammering Europe. They're the ones that don't want to make a deal. Russia and Putin are ready to make a deal, I think.
The world will be a better place, but I think there'll be some pretty unique opportunities to work with them on areas of bilateral geopolitical interest and some very unique economic opportunities. But we have to get the Ukraine situation resolved first in a way that's acceptable to everyone.
Okay, my last one. But does that mean if you get the staffs back to the normal operational level and staffs at the embassies, that you consider the Skripal case of the Crimea annexation to be be closed. They're no longer issues because I think, you mentioned that Keir Starmer is going to be in Washington next week. I can imagine that the Brits won't be particularly.
Yeah, again, I'm not going to negotiate or talk through every element of the disruptions that exist or have existed in our diplomatic relations and the mechanics of it. Suffice it to say that President Trump has pledged and intends to keep his promise to do everything he can to bring an end to this conflict. We cannot do that unless we have at least some normalcy in the way our diplomatic missions operate in Moscow and in Washington, D.C. And so we need to work to improve that. And we're going to work with them to see what's possible within that context.
Does that include removing Lavrov from rescinding sanctions that have been imposed?
We're just not at that level of conversation yet, but so that's there'll be a number of topics that'll have to be discussed.
I decided to go with Ro for GLP-1s because dealing with insurance is always sort of nerve-wracking. Having the team at Ro help me navigate the insurance was huge relief. It's left me with more time to do all the things that I love. Since losing weight, I feel very grounded, connected. I'm ready to go. If I had to do this on my own, I may not have done it at all.
To see if you qualify, go to ro.co/TV.
Wow.
You tweeted that you could, quote, can't emphasize enough how much Putin and his risk calculus have changed, unquote. Could you go into some more detail about what you mean by that? And do you think the Western response has been effective in getting him to at least reconsider what he's doing?
Well, first let me say, actually, the Western response leading up to this invasion is exactly what I'm pointing to as people not fully understanding it. Most of the countries, including the Ukrainian government, but most of the countries in Europe didn't believe he would invade. It just made no sense to them. They thought the risk calculus for him was not good. What they don't recognize is this guy is now almost 70 years old. He realizes he's in the backstretch. He probably feels that his legacy is not yet complete unless he can restore Greater Russia, which has to include Ukraine at least under his thumb, if not occupied by it. Yesterday, he began to make assertions to them losing their statehood. And so as a result, you see a person that's now engaged himself in a conflict that he can't win. He is now engaged in a conflict where he's either going to have a costly military victory followed by a costly occupation that he can't afford, or he's going to get caught in a long-term military quagmire. At the same time as he's facing a second front, which is an economy in free fall in his own country. So the combination of these two things, I think, puts us in a very dangerous place. And that is he's going to have to do something, some escalation, some amplification of this crisis in order to restore strategic balance, in his view, with the West. And I'm worried about what those things could be.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy, man. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. All right, guys, you guys want to raid with me? Thank you guys so much for being here. We'll see who is still, who did not get banned on Twitch, since we actually have some viewers tonight. Blah, blah, blah. Do I even know any of these people that are streaming right now? Not really. Could raid the 30 show.